Good morning, everybody. This is the Oregon Liquor Cannabis Commission meeting agenda for Thursday, April 21st, 2022. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Curran?
Here.
Commissioner Doherty?
Here.
Commissioner Floyd?
Here.
Commissioner Japong Porter?
Here.
Commissioner Miletus?
Here.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Here. First, approval of the March 8th and 17th, 2022 commission meeting minutes. The 8th was the special committee meeting.
I was just gonna tell you, those microphones aren't working. This is what we're just,
Those,
they're not working.
none of them are working?
No, this is picking up all the sound.
Oh.
Can we turn these off then?
Yeah.
Somebody get tired of listening to us?
They're just not very good.
Okay, the approval of the March 8th and 17th, 2022 commission meeting minutes. The 8th was the special meeting, right?
Correct.
And the 17th obviously was our normal commission meeting. Any comments or changes? Before we approve, let's approve them and then I'll make a comment on them. Please take the roll on it.
Chair.
Yes,
We need a motion?
yes, we need a motion.
I move to approve the March 8th and 17th, 2022 commission meeting minutes as written.
Commissioner Curran?
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus?
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. These, Laura, this is directed towards you more than anybody else, obviously. You've done a magnificent job, seriously, of putting these minutes together. We have a extensive audio of these meetings and we have extensive video, obviously, of the meetings. The record will speak for itself. So in the future, I'm just going to take the liberty of doing this with you. You don't need to put together such an extensive background. We have everything. To me, it's not a wise use of your time. So would you please attempt to significantly cut down on the minutes? And because we have everything and we're protected, I just took a little overview of them and don't spend too much time on it. Okay, is that fine with everybody? Yep.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
The Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association update. Jason Brand, President and CEO, and Greg Astley, Director of Government Affairs.
Jason and Greg, are you there? Can share your camera. Oh, Brandon, are you here? No. You know what? I gotta give them rights. It's okay. Let me find them. I know how to give them rights. You don't have to panic. It's just gonna take me a second. Sorry, guys.
All good.
We're not going anywhere.
And where's Greg? Where's Jason? Greg, you should have rights. Okay, great.
There he is.
Is Jason on, Greg?
He should be.
And is he maybe by phone, so I can't tell who he is?
He may be, but I would imagine he would have joined us by video. He was gonna run through the slides as well, so.
Oh, here he is. Here he is. So under pressure, you know.
Great job. There he is.
Thanks, guys.
Hey everyone.
Hey.
It's okay. I'm used to getting lost in the shuffle, so that's all right. I understand. The fun of virtual meetings, right? Well, Chair Rosenbaum and members of the commission, we greatly appreciate the opportunity just to share the latest on what's going on in Oregon's second largest private sector industry beyond healthcare. You know, we like to remind folks that we're the largest low barrier employer for essential skill development in this state. and that really rings true across the country. So many of us have, gotten our problem solving and our interpersonal skills, but because of the experiences we've had in hospitality. So it's great to hear some stories of bright spots, but we also want to share the reality on the ground about what's going on amongst restaurant and lodging establishments across the state. A few words of praise for OLCC, and I want Greg to chime in here as well. Um, we really can't thank the commission and Director Marks and Will Higlin enough for the ways they met the industry where we were living throughout the duration of the pandemic. And we have a host of examples of the ways in which OLCC was helpful and encouraging to operators in their time of need. I mean, 2+ months of suffering. Commissioner Floyd and I had conversations about the best adjective to describe this time in our lives as just having a sense of numbness because so much is coming at us, and how challenging that is when you have to work with government staff that maybe don't always understand the gravity of the suffering and the extent to which we're working to try to save these small businesses, thousands of them right across the state. But just a few examples, and I want Greg to chime in here too. But To Go Cocktails has obviously been a huge uh, popular win that everyone made possible. It goes without saying that OLCC staff, without the rulemaking process and streamlining that, making sure that we figured out how that would work, so that our restaurants could figure out ways to upsell and maybe capture some more margin in their attempts to survive the pandemic. Those alcohol margins obviously matter a great deal, and so how could we do To Go Cocktails safely and make sure we're doing it with integrity while still providing restaurants another avenue and a tool to be successful and hopefully find that path to survival. That was a huge deal. The work that the OLCC did on alcohol service area extensions when we had to expand our footprints outside and have a very user-friendly interface online where an operator could go and kind of sketch out their extended footprint and get a really quick and helpful approval that allowed them to extend that footprint and again capture more sales when maybe sales indoors were either restricted or hard to come by. And then last but certainly not least on my list, license fee flexibility. Cash flow continues to be a massive issue, and we'll talk about that in these slides in a second, and try to stay on time with just a quick 10 minutes here. But the license fee flexibility and the ongoing conversations that we're having with OLCC about license fees during the pandemic, given all the restrictions on how we were able to use our footprints, we really appreciate those ongoing conversations and the extensions that have been provided to date. So with that, I just want to turn it over to Greg to share some of his candid thoughts too about how much we've appreciated and respected the relationship with OLCC, and particularly the relationship with your executive staff and their willingness to meet us where we live and understand the real challenges that we've been facing in the industry. So Greg, I'll turn the floor over to you for a minute here.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'll keep it brief. You covered really the major ones, but in addition to that, the acceptance of ID from our neighbors to the north up in Canada was a huge help for some of our members as well. And all of what we've just talked about to us was so important that at the last hospitality conference that we had last year, we made sure that we recognized OLCC with our state agency partnership award. And we certainly do appreciate everything that the OLCC has done for our members and for the hospitality industry in Oregon. So I'll keep it short. And with that, I think we can start in on our presentation.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, and Laura, I'll just give you a little signal here to move the slides along. We just have 4 main slides. So the next one here with the content just tells a little bit to level set for everyone on the commission. If you're not familiar with the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, this is a little bit about who we are. A lot of folks don't realize that we still have a very strong and active membership with over 2,800 locations that are active members of Orla. I think it's natural to feel like maybe the organization doesn't have the same level of membership because of how many restaurants have closed and the challenges that we face, but we certainly have been very fortunate in people rising to that challenge and kind of bringing about collective strength together to really forge ahead and try to save as many local restaurants and lodging establishments as possible. I already mentioned how large the industry is from an employment standpoint. You can see the impacts that both restaurant and lodging establishments have on the overall economy. If you ever have any questions as commissioners, just know that Greg and I are always here to talk about who Orla is, how we try to make sure we're constantly on a daily basis meeting our mission, which is to protect, improve, and promote Oregon's second largest private sector industry. And constantly reminding folks too, especially our kiddos in high school and community college, that when we say hospitality, we're not talking about scrubs and vaccines and syringes. We're talking about restaurants and hotels. So workforce development efforts continue to forge ahead as well with some other agency partnerships here in Oregon. Go to the next slide here. Employment and hospitality. This is a bright spot if we can find the people to fill the jobs that we have available. So this is by far the biggest challenge we're facing outside of just natural survival for our local restaurants and some efforts that are going on right now in DC. We'll talk about those in some slides that Greg will go over. But we are projected to be the fastest growing industry between now and 2030. These are notes from the Oregon Employment Department, so one of your counterpart agencies. But overall, jobs in all industries, including ours, when you batch them all together and sum them up, 16% growth expected in Oregon across all industries between now and 2030. But it's 46% growth for our industry. The secret's out on Oregon. There's so many new business models and concepts that are emerging for restaurants as well as lodging establishments, how you can stay overnight as a tourist, how you can engage in bringing, about joy and fulfillment with your friends and family when you go out again after 2 incredibly challenging years of the pandemic. So, we're in the business of bringing joy and fulfillment to people's lives. It's a really awesome job to have. But you can see here that it's a lot of jobs, right? 73,000 plus that we're going to be adding over the course of the next 8 years. But also of note here, a lot of those jobs are replacing ones that were lost. So just remember, out of those 73,000, 3 in 10 are net new jobs. So we're still on that path of recovery. Some of you might have this question of, well, how far along are you on the path to recovery? Latest stats from the employment department, they say we're about 77% of the way back to where we were on employment before COVID, 77% of the way back, with 100% representing pre-COVID employment levels. Go to the next slide and I'll let you stop listening to my voice and turn it over to Greg.
So we have some data here. I just don't wanted to share with you. In 2020, as you can see, we had 1,185 restaurants close, 770 open, and in 2021, we had 1,043 that closed. 606 of those were permanent, 437 were temporary. That's the first year that we've had that differentiation between permanent and temporary closures. In 2021, the reopenings, in other words, a restaurant that maybe had temporarily shut down and reopened, was 805. So the bottom line number there, 653, which does not include any data from this year, has been our net loss of restaurants since the pandemic began. It's a volatile industry anyway, but it's also an industry where, as Jason mentioned, we have a low barrier to entry, whether you want to work in the industry or whether you want to start in the industry. You don't need a culinary degree or a business degree. You just need your grandmother's lasagna recipe and a wad of cash that you want to throw down the toilet. So it's a great industry to work in, though, as you all know. So next slide, please. So right now, just some high-level takeaways. Although the net restaurant closures are lower than we initially anticipated, the biggest issue is that thousands of restaurants are carrying debt loads that they've never carried before. It took us 2 years to get where we are right now with the shutdowns and the payroll protection programs, the employee retention tax credit programs. And even though restaurants right now may be making money this month, the bottom line is they're still carrying a tremendous debt from the last 2 years. Money that they've had to put on credit cards or lines of credit, second mortgages that they've had to take out on their homes. And so really, even though restaurants may be doing well, your favorite, corner restaurant, they still have a lot of debt that they're paying off. One of the ways that we're hoping to get some relief from that is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It was initially funded at $28.6 billion. In Oregon, that meant that 2,337 restaurant operators were helped by that. But unfortunately, there were almost another 2,600 who, even though they were approved for that money, did not receive it. And so right now, there's a real inequality there between the restaurants that have received that money and how they're able to operate, and the ones that were eligible and approved for it and still have not received that help. On the lodging side, we are seeing some significant gains in many regions. Portland region is the challenge, though, with the higher debt loads and underperforming business travel demands. We're still not back where we are pre-COVID with business travel. It's getting there, but it's going to take a few more years before we really get back to that point. So as we continue to move forward, the group business and the conferences that come to Portland are going to be critical to fill those hotel rooms, especially as we continue to add more. The next thing is the hospitality concepts and how we're seeing more models, new models that are continuing to emerge, especially with technology. Whether it's the QR codes that you find to read your menu, whether it's being able to pay at the table, whether it's robot servers that we're seeing in a restaurant in Beaverton. We are seeing technology as a bigger part of what's happening in the hospitality industry. It's not going to have anything to do with food quality, but it certainly is something that we're keeping an eye on and does impact our members when it comes to the labor market. And then finally, the supply. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Let me stop you for a second. To me, there isn't an inverse relationship between the technology and the amount of people you need to perform the services in a restaurant. I mean, no matter how increased the digital experience is and the technology is, you still need people in there, don't you? I mean, is there a reduction in people because of technology in the industry?
The Chair Rosenbaum, there certainly can be. You're absolutely right, though. Part of what is unique about hospitality is that interaction between the folks who work in, the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, and their customers. You don't go to your local restaurant to, sit by yourself and have a robot bring you your food. You're still going to want that interaction, but there are things that are happening. So if you've been to a Applebee's or a Red Robin lately, you may see a tablet on the table where you can place your order, where you can pay for it, where your kids could play games, your grandkids could play games on it. You're still going to probably have a server who's going to bring you that food, and certainly you're going to have somebody who's going to cook that food. But we are seeing, again, some technological advancements. There's now a robot that flips burgers. White Castle is using it. And so we are seeing people start to use technology, but labor and the human element is always going to be a part of it.
Yeah, Chair, I just add a couple other thoughts too as well. I mean, as labor costs continue to be a central challenge to getting the dollars and cents to pencil out at the end of the day, the last time we talked to you, we made sure to share the very important line that 95 cents of every dollar a customer spends goes into the food, the place, and the employees. So it's on the best days, it's a 5 cents per dollar of sale industry. And so there's constant evolution when it comes to how technology is used as at the table to maybe reduce the total number of front of the house staff you need. And then also more emergence of models from full service to counter service. And so as we see more business models continue to shift over time, I think you're going to see a higher propensity of investment in the back of the house to protect food quality and more technology being used in the front of the house to complement front of the house workers. I don't think they're ever going to really entirely go away, but you might see less of them or have those individuals covering a larger amount of tables compared to what we've had traditionally in the industry.
It seems to me that, it just screams out here. The biggest issue you're going to have for the years to come is labor. Finding people, and in some industries, the technology will replace the labor. But in this one, that's my whole point. I don't think no matter what kind of technology you have, you're still going to have a labor issue.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right now, Oregon Employment Department, one of the top 5 jobs that's the hardest to fill are cooks, restaurant cooks. One of the top 5 in the entire state for job types that are incredibly hard to fill right now. So yeah, we have our challenges for sure.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry, but that to me was an important point. I didn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. The last thing we just want to mention is the supply chain constraints, the increase in costs, And as you mentioned, Chair, the workforce recovery efforts are going to continue in 2022. We do see modest gains on a month-to-month basis, but with everything that's happening globally, with everything that's happened because of the pandemic, we are still seeing issues with being able to get certain proteins, for example, being able to get certain items for restaurants. The uptick in takeout and delivery has meant that there's been some issues with being able to have enough supply of those products, for example. And then, of course, the cost increases. Many of you have probably gone to your favorite restaurant and seen that they've had to increase their prices because all of those prices are going up. So we'll continue to see that this year and probably for the near future, but we're hoping that that will level out here at some point. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, here's our contact information. We really like to make sure we're highly accessible to those that want to reach out, have one-to-one conversations, just learn about what we're hearing as we're keeping our ear to the ground on how our local restaurants are doing in particular. And just, again, want to reiterate how thankful and grateful we are to the OLCC over the last 2 years. I mean, if we were in the state agency Olympics, the OLCC would get the gold medal. So you should feel good about that. And you should just really want to thank you all so much for the way in which you're working with your executive leadership and how nimble and flexible you've been able to approach the pandemic at a time when the industry desperately needed that approach. So we couldn't be more grateful for the ongoing relationship and the work that we do with the OLCC team.
I wanted to make a comment.
Oh, sure. Any questions?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Greg, Mr. Ashley. You know, I've reached out to you and Courtney, and you provided me with a wealth of knowledge and information. I think that you all are doing a fabulous job. I liked your work environment. And as far as the labor shortage, I think it should be touted and well known that under one of your umbrellas, you have a fabulous high school program, which might further be supported by us in the community to enhance availability of labor to the restaurant and lodging industry. And I think that you should, you know, speak on that to the commission, let them know and what you're doing with regards to that.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciated our conversation as well, and I was glad you were able to come visit us at the office. So I know you've reached out to Courtney Smith, who's our executive coordinator for the Oregon Hospitality Foundation, about those workforce issues. And certainly today we don't have enough time, but would love to inform the commission about some of the efforts that we're undertaking on the Hospitality Foundation side of things as well.
Yeah, just high level for the commission to kind of iterate that point. We have about 30 high schools that have the ProStart program and ProStart teachers that are teaching culinary skills in our high school classrooms, and that's about 3,000 high school students. So to the commissioner's point, a lot of room to grow and getting more and more high schools and even community colleges involved in the ProStart program. So we appreciate your passion on that, Commissioner. It's a great opportunity to grow something that will be meaningful to kiddos out there across the state.
Commissioner Floyd, you're the go-to person on this. You got anything to say?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
Greg, Jason, so good to see you guys. Thank you immensely for your presentation. It's been almost it's been 2.5 years, and it seems like the last 2.5 years industry has been caught between the Twilight Zone and Groundhog's Day. It's felt also with that feeling of being numb. Jason, you're right. And your advocacy work for industry has been remarkable. So thank you immensely from the bottom of my heart. Your advocacy work has been just astounding. Aside from that, can you share anything? What does the path forward look like? The path ahead look like for industry? Any predictions? Aside from we've still got a lot of challenges ahead. Aside from we've got a wage increase, we've got of course, industry members are still chomping at the bit about the cat tax. We've got the labor shortage we're dealing with. supply chain issues, inflation through the roof, just to name a few. But is there any optimism, Greg, Jason, is there any optimism industry can aspire to coming down the pike?
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole host of challenges, and you did a great job listing those out. Those are the ones that keep us up at night as well. I would say probably our biggest opportunity is to continue to promote self-awareness amongst customers and Oregonians in general, to realize that when they see their local restaurant and it seems packed and full and successful, that there's an invisible pile of debt on that restaurant's shoulders. You can't see it, but it was never there before, and they're not out of the woods yet. We have probably hundreds of restaurant locations that are still on the edge of permanently closing. So just because we might be in a different chapter of COVID does not mean that COVID's done with the restaurant industry. It's far from it. So we have a lot of work to do to figure out how we shore up some of the supply chain constraint issues that we've had, bring our hard costs, our prime costs down in the industry to protect that very limited margin. I think you are also going to see a number of restaurants consider new business models, and probably hurts your heart to hear that, Commissioner Floyd, because you run one heck of a full service operation in Portland. I do think we're going to see more locations consider a course correction on just how much cost of goods sold they're willing to endure in order to stay in business. So I think some folks have seen a larger propensity for to-go sales, and they're holding on to new ways to embrace that new to-go model. And to-go cocktails are, of course, a part of that. Some of our operators are able to capture more margin in sales, and maybe in a way that they never would have done if it wasn't for the fact that they were forced to figure out a way forward through COVID. So there are some, I guess, silver lining benefits that came because of COVID, such as us having this meeting now virtually is another example. So I think it's yet to be seen. We're going to have, I think, a lot of upheaval in the restaurant industry for the foreseeable future because of all of the reasons you just mentioned, Commissioner. So it's not an easy path forward. People need to realize being in the restaurant industry, it's tough sledding. It was tough sledding before COVID, and it's even harder now. So don't underestimate the tenacious nature and the persevering attitude that a restaurant operator has just to stay alive as a local operator in their local economy, because it's going to take the consumers meeting them and being frequent customers and supporting them in order to get through the other side of this ordeal we've all been through for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I do think a bright spot, though, Commissioner, is there is still sympathy out there for the restaurant industry amongst the public. And I think there's a genuine passion. People are anxious to get out. They do want to go out and enjoy their favorite bars and restaurants. They do want to take their families out and celebrate those special moments. And so I think that there is still a lot of goodwill out there toward the restaurant industry, and folks want to come out and eat. And so we'll continue to track that as well. But that's some of the things that we're hearing around the state as well.
We got to get inflation under control. I mean, that is absolutely killing us. So a lot of work to do on that front, I think, across the entire country to figure out how we protect that very limited margin that we must have in order for these local restaurants to survive.
Yeah, I agree. There's a cap, right? There's a ceiling. You can only charge so much for a burger. You can only charge for a pizza, and then there's a ceiling there before you price out the market. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Any other comments?
Great job.
Good
job. Thank you very much.
Listen, when I requested you guys to come on quarterly and do this, I did not, I think this is very informative and it's well worth it, but I did not say that you should put a time limit on your presentation. So if you, in the future, if you have more than 20 minutes to say, please tell us and give us whatever time you think is necessary, because as you said, this is a very important thing. We're very sympathetic and we're very supportive. So you can't ask for anything better. So take your time you need in the future.
Yeah, and we'll come as often as you want us as a commission, and we look forward to engaging you all in person when you're ready for that step. So next time you're bringing folks in to the office, we'll be there and be ready to go. We'll look forward to that.
Do we do it, is it quarterly now? Is it quarterly?
Probably annually,
Or every,
annually,
huh?
usually, once a year, usually.
No, we should do it more than once. a
It's been-
year.
Mr. Chairman, they're gonna actually be, Greg and Jason will both be down in Southern Oregon Commission meeting in June.
Oh,
Yes,
Just,
Well, let's do
Just-
it. do
just
it
just
Greg.
me.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that okay with you guys? I thought we already scheduled this, didn't
I
we?
think it's quarterly.
I think it's quarterly.
Yep.
Well, let's do it quarterly. You guys appear in front of us about every 3-4 months, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it quarterly.
You got it, Mr. Chair. Happy to do it.
Can I get a copy of their slides?
Okay, Associated Liquor Stores of Oregon, from an update, Celine Nourani is president, Oliver Corker, vice president, and Tracy Brumble, secretary. Welcome.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Corker, you're on, I guess. There you go. Good morning.
Celine.
Somewhere in there?
He was.
Good morning.
Good morning.
See if I can find him again.
If you find Celine, you're gonna get a raise.
Oh, man. When I say see more, I feel
was
like it
on
makes
before.
less. He is on, yeah,
He's on. There.
let's see. Where are you, Salim? I don't see him in the list. Unless he's there by phone number, which I doubt.
He's,
Some-
You go to see more underneath there. There was a.
Yeah, she
right there,
did.
See more.
Yeah, I did, and it seemed like it made the list shorter. It got rid of the phone numbers, but see.
he's under 10 attendees there. I see him.
Do you?
Yeah.
I see him
S,
too.
S, yeah, SN for
SN.
Celine Carney.
I don't see him.
I don't see-
Brian, do you see him?
I just signed back off of there. I'll go back in
Okay,
accessing.
boy, Melissa's gonna have to do a lot of editing on this meeting. See, it's like,
Can you type his name in there?
that's a good idea. Let's see.
Working up, Laura. Sorry.
There he is.
There he is.
I get the raise.
You So I'm gonna make him a presenter just for kicks to see if that helps him, because I know last meeting that was part of the issue for some people. Salim, did that help?
Can we attend here?
He is an attendee
Okay.
already.
There he is. There he is.
There we go.
Okay.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Can you see me and hear me?
Hear you.
Wow.
Good morning, Chair Rosenbaum and Commission members. I am so glad we got over that hurdle. My name is Salim Nourani, a small business owner with liquor stores in Albany, Corvallis, and Springfield. I'm here as the president of Associated Liquor Stores of Oregon, simply referred to as ALSO, representing the interests of all liquor store owners in Oregon and advocating on behalf of our constituents. With me presenting are Oliver Coker, also vice president, with stores in Kaiser and Woodburn, and Tracy Brumbles, also secretary and communication guru of our association, and a liquor store owner from Rainier, Oregon. I see few familiar faces and a couple of new faces in the makeup of the commission today. Welcome, new commissioners, on behalf of all agents, and thank you for your service. If you would like a tour of a liquor store, or maybe even work a couple of hours to see how the process flows, we are short of staff too, so we would be happy to arrange it for you. Our presentation today is to provide an update since the start of pandemic to where we are today.
Last year, also members stores were responsible for generating $495 million of the liquor sales out of $786 million in total sales. Our membership represents the smallest store out in Eastern Oregon to some of the largest stores in the Portland area. We not only focus on issues and concerns of our members, but continually communicate with all agents regardless of their membership in our association. 2020 and 2021 were very challenging for all of us. In particular, we as small business owners had an impossible task of keeping our doors open with minimal staffing. We still managed to keep the revenue flowing into the state general fund. Of particular concern was the level of shoplifting, burglary, and break-ins of the liquor stores, which went up almost 100% from 2020 to 2021. We do not have any comparative data prior to 2020.
The OLCC warehouse, despite challenges with staffing and absenteeism, somehow managed to keep the cases flowing to the stores. Our heartfelt thanks to Nikki Leslie, warehouse staff who showed up for work, Brian Fleming, and Olive Retail Services. We had a great success at the legislative level in 2021. We finally managed, after 20 plus years of advocating, to assure revenue stability for retail business owners operating liquor stores in Oregon in the form of a legislative bill. This would not have been possible without Mr. Marks or Mr. Mayton's help in creating a plan and advocating to legislators and presenting liquor agents and the commission as unified partners. It was a very sad moment on July 22nd, 2021, when we learned our friend and the champion of small business owners had passed away. Representative Gary Leaf sponsored the agent compensation bill. He advocated and pushed it all the way through both chambers. He received unprecedented and unanimous support from both sides of the aisle. We will miss him very much. May he rest in peace.
Laura, you may start the presentation. Slide
right.
presentation. And just keep moving it at a steady pace. Thank you. The pandemic highlighted liquor store owners helping their local communities during this time of great stress. We at Cork and Bottle, in partnership with Albany Police Department, distributed over $5,000 worth of food boxes to the needy. 2022 saw the passage of the new proposed warehouse budget. We strongly supported this request. In order to be competitive, addressing the market needs, and planning for the future, a new state-of-the-art warehouse technology update, near real-time product tracking, and sales reporting is crucial in the changing marketplace. Currently, there are multiple POS vendors with varying degrees of functionality. We need a standard unified system to move from paper and snail mail to a centralized digital system, enhancing functionality and reducing errors and saving resources. Such a system is proposed in partnership with the liquor stores and the commission. We appreciate the open door policy and joint work groups in creating an RFP for the POS system.
Advertising and promoting on social media is the new norm. We as small business owners should be able to utilize social media platforms without burdensome regulations. Monthly specials, post-offs, and closeouts are a few informational pieces that would drive additional business to the stores. The current contract between the liquor store owners and commission is over several decades old, with minor changes over the years. America's economic engine is driven by small business owners. The recent working relationship that has developed with Mr. Marks and Mr. Mayton has shown agents that the OLCC actually does listen to agents' concerns. In the past, we felt ignored and our voices were left unheard. We need and look forward to a contract which highlights the economic and symbiotic relationship that exists between us and the commission.
Some of the proposed changes include market-based, independent appraised business values rather than the current arbitrary goodwill value. Currently, zero value is assigned to the non-liquor part of our business. A market base value would encourage existing large and small liquor store owners to make investments in upgrading their stores, providing an enhanced and modern one-stop shopping experience. Another option is to convert from an individual assigned store to an LLC or corporation. Such a rule is already in place with grocery stores, which have liquor stores inside. Such an option would allow current liquor agents to offer shares in the business to their valued management and staff and employees, creating long-term stability and loyalty to the business. A fair and balanced contract between us would create a solid relationship working towards generating an ever-increasing revenue stream for the people of Oregon and supporting small business owners, their families, and their communities. As you have seen from the slide presentation, a number of stores have already delivered on their promise of modern, remodeled, and state-of-the-art stores.
It would be remiss of me not to mention the Northwest Grocery Association's ballot initiative to dismantle our current system and put liquor on grocery shelves. Looking at the data from Washington State post-privatization, it leaves no doubt that the consumers were shortchanged. In fact, an academic study and survey of Washington voters conducted 5 years after the measure passed showed that so many people regretted their yes vote that if the election were held again, this measure would have failed. High prices, damage to locally owned businesses, easier access to minors, and increased shoplifting are some of the direct results. In fact, in Oregon, liquor store to Washington customers have spiked dramatically since liquor privatization due to high prices. Oliver?
Excuse me. Will liquor privatization reduce costs and increase consumer choice? No, while big box stores will argue that deregulating the sales of liquor in Oregon will allow for more choice and convenience, the reality is it will lead to less of both. The state system, as it is now, promotes parity among distillers and retail stores, which allows for more variety for consumers. Under a deregulated system, larger retailers would benefit, while smaller, more local businesses would hurt the most.
The group pushing this ballot initiative are big box stores and multinational companies because it supports their bottom line. It does not support mom and pop stores like ours, locally owned distilleries, restaurants, or other small businesses. This initiative would not add jobs nor help our local economies in any way. There is no grassroots support for the changes or the clamoring for privatization. Most Oregonians are satisfied with the current system for buying liquor. If it isn't broken, then why are we trying to fix it? This ballot measure is unnecessary, and it's being pushed by powerful out-of-state corporations that just want to pad their pockets. The direct impact will be felt by small business owners of liquor stores and distilleries, which support over 18,000 jobs and generates $1.6 billion for education, healthcare, wildfire response, addiction recovery programs, and other services critical to Oregon communities. Just like members of ALSO, Oregon's craft distillers oppose this measure because they know it will hurt their local business and even put many out of business. We need to protect local business and the jobs they provide.
Under our current system, we ensure stable pricing for consumers, give smaller, local Oregon-based distillers the ability to sell their products to customers statewide, and ensure the sales are regulated to keep liquor out of the hands of minors. Revenues from OLCC help fund essential services at the city, county, and state level, including schools, public health programs, and public safety. We, as small business liquor store owners and as members of a coalition of concerned businesses, and organizations will work hard to communicate to the citizens of Oregon the benefits of current system and the risks and harm that will result from privatization. We thank you for your time and are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Commissioners?
Adequate. You mentioned there was issues with advertisement on social media. Are those OLCC rules that you're bumping up against, or are those what in particular? Can you detail those?
Commissioner, currently on social media, we are not allowed to post specials, monthly specials, or any individual product. So those are part of the rules that commission has authority over.
Perfect. Well, we'll take a look at it. Yeah, you guys are doing great. It's a fantastic system we have, and it's good you're out there beat the drum for it, because it's often misunderstood by people, and the difference in the stores. I mean, I've grown up in Oregon, and you look at the stores 10 years ago versus today, and they're night and day different, and they're beautiful. So great job to all the agents. It's cool to see.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Any other comment? Will you please talk to me for a second or two about the RFP for a POS system? Will, you're going to have to respond to this too, but where are we in your mind? Where are we now on it? Anybody want to answer that?
Mr. Chairman, I think Brian Fleming could actually answer some of the details around that.
Well, Celine, you're the one who just brought it up in your presentation.
Yes, Chairman.
You know, it's a favorite topic of mine. I'm not going to ever get off of it. So
No. I'm more than happy to provide whatever updates I have. So the last meeting we had.
Excuse me. It's not so much you providing updates. I think Brian is going to do that, and there's somebody here. But I want to hear from you your thoughts on it in terms of how it will enhance not only your operation but the state of Oregon.
Thank you, Commissioner. As you know, you being from the technology world, and that was my former expertise. Anytime you take a system that is steeped and based in paper tracking and redundancy, moving to an electronic system makes that entire system much more efficient. A minor example that I can give you is that every week we are required to capture the previous week's sales, break it down by the mode of payment, and also if there were any licensee sales. And we have to staple all of this together, and we mail it by USPS to Milwaukee, where somebody sits there, slits open the envelope, pulls this all out, and re-enters it into the system. So that is just one small example. And if you can follow that chain, this is throughout the entire system. We are drowning in paper currently.
My question to you is self-serving. Obviously, I know what's going on here, and it has to change. Brian, where are we, if any place at all, on it? Do you know?
I do. Chair Rosenbaum, Commissioners, for the record, Brian Fleming, Director of Retail Services. By the way, nice presentation, Celine. Nice to hear all the call outs for OLCC. Sincerely appreciated. With that said, the point of sale system, we obviously sent out a survey a little about a year ago. Pretty overwhelming support generally for a statewide system supported. Requirements gathering with RDI, resource data, has been going on for a few months. Christy Scott is part of the project as well with the entire distilled spirit supply chain. We also had members, Salim, Oliver, others, met with a bunch of the liquor agents to gather their thoughts or ideas about things that we didn't what would be in the system. What Salim mentions is a system without paper for weekly sales reports and monthly sales reports. We agree. It's in this POS requirements for the future. There are a host of other things, real-time data, push-pull data rather than nightly data, claims, transfers, everything electronically. And if this moves swifter than the entire distilled spirit supply chain project, then it would have to integrate for the future, because as you know, we have an outdated financial services system and would have to integrate this point of sale into any new system to operate the mothership, if you will. The RFP is intended as early as June. DAS is working on the RFP, so that would be request for proposal goes out to the public. The requirements gathering is you either meet these conditions in the musts or you're excluded. So that's in process as we speak. We've spent hours and hours documenting, you know, what we think the system should have in the future, as well as with liquor agents. So there's a host of work that's been done over the last 6 months, but I think we're getting closer to releasing the RFP. If we were in a private sector business, you would do it slightly differently because, you know, in Oregon, you have a procurement process. It has to be open and available to everybody. So it's important that you detail it well so that you get qualified people. Again, this is a third-party system, not something that IT ourselves is developing. It's somebody that potentially is already in the marketplace as a point of sale provider.
Well, I think you did that very well. The only problem is, and it's not your problem, is that the RFPs are ridiculously slow. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. I can't do anything about it. I've tried, and the state of Oregon, in their infinite wisdom, knows better than people that agree the 21st century. Here's this thing. It's called a cell phone, you know, and every one of the liquor owners in this state, the one thing that you want more than anything else is to be able to pick up your cell phone, get on it, and take a look at your inventory, understand what's available, do everything over this phone. And until you get that, you're not going to be satisfied. And until you get that, we're not going to be satisfied. And if that's another 3.5 to 4 years down the road, as opposed to 6 months that we could do it, you know, so be it. I'm tired of hitting my head against a stone wall on it, but I think everybody who understands what I'm saying. But true, don't you want to do all your business and pick up that damn phone and understand what you're doing?
Yeah.
Restaurant owners, bar owners, you know, food suppliers, this is where it's going to be. And if it's not there, we're doing a disservice to everybody.
I'm just curious, Paige Pong Porter, for the record, I'm just curious about what that's gonna look like, provided the RFP is gonna be approved. Like, how are the agent or the liquor store owners gonna be supported from the transition from analog to digital? And what's the time period?
So Commissioner Porter, I'll try. I do not speak IT. So I'm not well versed in the IT aspect of implementation. But the goal is to OLCC, it needs to be budgeted as well, purchase a system, input all of the information potentially from old, and then have back and forth communication to here through one system, one standalone system. This one would be, we have about 6 or 7 approved today for point of sale. Those are really what we require is sales and inventory transmission back and forth, and it's nightly. This is real-time information through API. And again, an acronym I'm not completely familiar with, but I know them going through this process. But something more real-time, something that's connected to us, something that we can have visibility. Liquor agents would have visibility into our supply chain long-term, and really something that's probably on a shelf somewhere whether it's Kroger, whether it's a Best Buy, you know, looking at inventories when you're ordering online, something a little better than, you know, nightly data.
It's really unfair for you to respond to it because it's.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I think what we should do is to ask Boba to come next month. Let him make a presentation to us as to everything out there, what the concept is, where they're going. I think that would be very helpful for all of us here. This is such a critical issue. Everything is coming together. If we don't do it right, shame on us. So let's
Sure.
get Boba to come next month and give a presentation.
Mr. Chair, Christy Scott, who's one of the project
Christy
members,
too, sure.
absolutely is deeply, deeply embedded in this project. So I will pass along the
Christy's
information.
wonderful, yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Great.
Let Christy and Boba figure it out.
You got it.
Put something together.
Chair, one last question. We can't be the only people in the world trying to do this thing. Have we seen other systems that are working or not working, or we can improve on throughout the country?
Commissioner Doherty, yes. They're being done in retail shops across the country, meaning, you know, control state systems, and let's
Yeah.
use Virginia ABC as an example, or New Hampshire. They have all their own stores, right? So they run and operate those with state employees. They're able to put a standalone system in. This is dating back 20, 25 years when we got our first one, you know, to transmit data back and forth. But absolutely, there's systems out there, and there's IBM, there's Square, there's all these newer systems that operate retail. Commissioner Floyd, I'm sure you have a point of sale system. I don't know what it's called, but a modern platform for ordering at your restaurant. So yes, there's lots available in multi-unit locations like we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Salim, have you seen Boba's program that he put together on the data for the liquor stores in Oregon?
Chair Rosenbaum, yes, I have. And like I mentioned earlier, that the systems we have right now does not have a two-way communication with the headquarters. And I think therein lies the problem, trying to get real-time data and being much more efficient, even with state dollars, because if you have redundancies and if you have extra products sitting in one store and the other store requires it, we don't have that capability does not exist right now.
But the POS system will bring us into the 21st century, and Boba's system that he's created with a centralized POS system will do the job for you.
Absolutely.
And have the commissioners ever seen what we have here? None? Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's magnificent, and it's waiting to happen, and we can't do it without it. That's why I'm pushing, this POS system is incredibly important to everybody. A centralized, I think maybe Boba should, for the new members, you know, let's put at least 5 or 10 minutes together so the new members can understand the power we have here. If we ever can get to that point, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. This seems inadequate at best.
Okay,
We can make that happen, absolutely.
Confirm, Christie's acknowledged, she's on the call, she had to run to another, electronic technology today, we're able to swiftly communicate. That's exactly what we're trying to do with the point of sale system.
No, this is great conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very important. Thank you. And you guys come back again, what, every 3 months or 4 months? We want you back.
Thank you. Actually, last time we were back was over 2 years ago.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Let's do the same thing. Let's do a quarterly report.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you. We appreciate that.
You guys work it out with Will and Steve and Brian and anybody else, but we want you back quarterly to give us a report. This is really important for us.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
The presentation you'll see next month is really spectacular, but we have to get it done.
It's expensive for agents not to have it.
Exactly.
With the rising cost of labor.
Thanks.
It's very
Bill's gonna do an
expensive, not
update
very
first and
efficient.
then.
Mr. Fleming, you're on the hot seat again.
Chair Rosenbaum, I believe, Will Higman, will be responding first.
I'm doing a building update for you this morning.
Oh, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. I'm
Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Deputy Director. I have been asked to give the warehouse update today because Chris Mate is not available and Christie's actually on the phone. So she'll help with any specific questions you might have. And Bill Schuete's in the room as well if you have any financial questions that they asked me to give the update today. So this is what happened with me during COVID. All of a sudden, I can't read anything. And I'm struggling trying to figure that whole thing out.
Welcome to the group.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, the great news, we hit a big milestone. We signed the sales agreement and it's been executed. And we have deposited earnest money into escrow. So we are off and running. So that's really positive stuff. The group, as you know, has done a terrific job. Some of the things behind that, DAS Real Estate has asked that any requests for documentation actually go through them. So we're going to be really careful about the communications and as we move forward. And now we're in the due diligence period, working with the property owner to ensure all records and inspections for the property are in order. So that's pretty exciting. We've got the earnest money in there, we've got the property, and we're moving forward. Underneath that, we have the design architect firm, and the contract and the statement of work is currently being reviewed by DAS Procurement Services. As soon as that's approved, which should be shortly, we're going to start moving into, we call it programming sessions to identify space requirements for the different departments. We've already done internal work here. We've worked with all our division directors based on what we think today, what they think their needs will be, but we'll actually work with the firm once we got them under contract to dig down deep into the space allocation for employees and local needs, moving forward. And it'll be a challenge, right? Because of COVID and all the different things we're doing now. We're going to learn a lot. I'll update you at the end of the commission meeting about what we're doing when we open up May 2nd and how that will look. So it'll be really important that we gather that information as we do space planning for the new facility. The Milwaukee property partition that you approved last month, Jeff Samuels will be going in front of the plaque group that we talked about, the Public Lands Advisory Committee on April 28th. And last but not least is the bond sale, is set for next month. The OLC requested $52.5 million in funds to be released and will request the remainder at the March 2023 bond sale.
March 2023. Okay.
So that's what I have for you today, but I do have Christie's on the phone and Bill Schuete's in the room if you have any specific questions about that, but it's pretty exciting. We are off and running.
I believe Christie ran to another meeting.
Oh, did she? Oh, she had to leave at 10 o'clock.
All right, great job.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, great job. I mean, it's, like we saw with the IT stuff, having all those stages at state government can be an hindrance, but it's great that, with DAS and then they've moved quickly, because like we said a few times, that we don't lock up this property. If we didn't lock up this property, this agency would be in the world of hurt. It would have been, who knows, probably south of Salem. So, for the continuation of operations, for staff, for everything, I think it's fantastic that they're able to move quickly. The money's there and the property's locked up, because anything short of that, we'd be in trouble. And it's good that there's been all those steps along the way, because I think as people understand this process and what this agency's done, I think the more they know, the more they'll be appreciated, just what a big move this was and how thoughtfully it was done. So thank you to everybody.
Any other questions? I have a quick one, is that right now, what kind of allocation, if any, has been put away on the warehouse for office space? Are we gonna have office space in there, or is it gonna, and tell me how much has been allocated at this point?
Mr. Chairman, I'll give you a rough guesstimate. I believe we have 30 or 35,000 square feet for office space designed right now. That could change once we get the architecture in here. To put that in perspective, we have about 55,000 here in this building. So we're cutting it Probably 30-40% is what the estimate is right now. Now, that could go up or down depending on once we get into the design work with the architect.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. We got 55,000 here. When is everybody technically supposed to come back?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Roughly.
I'll just give you my personal opinion. I don't think we're ever gonna have.
No,
everybody
I know.
But we're opening up to the public May 2nd.
Okay,
So we're gonna have people
so
here to
sometime
support the
between
public.
May 2nd of this year and December of this year, we'll have a pretty good idea of what the office space capacity is gonna be, right? How many people will be in there? And then you'll redesign it again, depending upon, you'll have a much better idea at that point.
That's the point. That's
So
my opinion.
it seems that 45,000 square feet may be too much.
It might be. So I think we're just gonna, at least that's my opinion, is things have changed so much over the last 2 years. It's like every 3 months, something different came. So we're just starting really slow, May 2nd. We want to make sure we're taking care of our customers that come through the front of the building. And we have the resources here that need to be here to do that. Other than that, we're gonna kind of stay the track of what we've been doing with remote working. And then slowly but surely, if need be, we'll bring people in. So we're just gonna learn as we go. And the I think the environment's just gonna change. We're gonna get a lot of pressure on us. I get a lot of pressure on us every day about people wanting to stay home and work. It's worked. We've done a pretty good job with it. So I want to be as flexible as I can. But in my mind, it's all about serving the public at the same time. We've got to make sure that's our priority as we move forward. So.
Yeah, I mean, thank you.
Well,
We're going to take both we're going to listen to the Crestwell store and also the Hillsborough store before we make an adjournment. So we'll do all 6 of them. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a 5-minute break now, and then we'll come back. We're back in session. Brian, you want to take it over at this point, and we'll go from there?
Yes, Chair Rosenbaum, again, for the record, Brian Fleming, Director of Retail Services. I have 2 stores before you today for permanent appointment, Creswell Store and Hillsborough Loa. The Creswell Store is a result of Herb Bonner's resignation, moving out of state, has resigned. We have 3 applicants for you today, and we'll just go ahead and dive right into the presentation. The first one is Ryan Gilpatrick. If you can turn on your camera, unmute, you'll need to state your name for the record, and you'll have 5 to 7 minutes to do your presentation.
Commissioner Floyd is going to do the. That's it. Brian, that's just an inside joke. But-
Understood.
And she's
First off,
She's-
sorry, can you hear me well?
up on everybody.
So just as a final piece for presenters, generally there's a reminder at the 6-minute, 30-minute mark for 30 seconds remaining per Commissioner Revol's prior practices.
How many minutes total?
7 total.
Perfect, and we're gonna,
And 6
at
and a half.
6:30.
I'm gonna give you a warning, Ryan.
And
Understood.
I'm
So-
not as tough, I'm gonna admit, I'm not as tough as Commissioner Hall, but I'm trying to be Ryan.
okay, so go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
My name is Ryan James Gilpatrick, Gilpatrick.
Whenever you're ready.
First off, I've been an employee of Cresswell Store 1153 for the last 10 years. 7 of those years I've been in a management role. If I could go ahead and get the next slide, please. During that time, my duties have included, but have not been limited to, ordering spirits, mixers, accepting and checking in, posting and writing checks for vendor orders, inventory management of both spirits and other items, delivery and customer service for licensees, over-the-counter sales. I'm very proficient with KMDS services, both back office and as a point of sale system. And I've been utilizing the OLCC's online services to answer customer inquiries and to educate myself and the rest of the staff. If I could get the next slide, please. The store was moved in 2017
And since that time, we have grown at quite an impressive rate. While I can't take full responsibility, as many people have worked very hard for that growth, I can say that I was a steadfast and constant member of the group who did that. If I could have the next slide, please. When Bert and Glenda moved the store, they upgraded the shelving, the sales counter, computers, security cameras, and the flooring in order to modernize the store. If I could get the next slide, please. This is a photo of the current sales floor showing the LED lighting that was installed and some of the signage that we use. And if I could have the next slide. It's going to be a very similar photo, slightly different angle, just showing off more of the signage. And if I could have the next slide. Although the store has been recently updated, I do feel that there are a few areas that it could improve. Due to rising cost and large competitors in the area, ICE has become less profitable. I believe that the space utilized for that is better used for cooler space to assist in the transition to a non-exclusive state. I believe custom fitted shelving to showcase the tobacco and tobacco alternatives would boost sales by making it more visible to our consumers. And using some shelving units in the storage areas would utilize the area better in order to have more backstock. If I could have the next slide, please. This slide's a visual aid to see the current setup of the ice cooler that I would like to remove. If I could have the next slide, please. Removal of that cooler would allow me to move the Coke cooler that is currently at the front of the store back by the Pepsi cooler, putting all of the soda items together. And if I could have the next slide. The previously mentioned changes would allow for a large cooler to be placed near the registers at the front of the store, again assisting in a transition to a non-exclusive sales. If I could have the next slide, please. This is the current display for tobacco and alternatives. I propose doing a custom fitted shelf into the recessed area with some LED lighting to help assist the customers in visibility. If I could have the next slide, please. These are some photos of shelving units that I propose to use in the storage areas. And if I can get the next slide, I'll show you the areas in which I think they could be utilized. Both in the center of the liquor storage area to promote more storage and along the walls of the hallway there in order to maintain more storage for beer, wine, or soda items. If I could have the next slide, please. There are some wooden shelving in the storage area for liquor items that I believe could be replaced with some steel items that would utilize the space better and allow us to have more storage. Next slide, please. The future. What I would like to do if appointed. I would like to remove one side of the mixed shelving that is currently on the sales floor and utilize that space for what are called back bar style coolers. This would allow for more cold beer and wine sales space. If I could get the next slide, please. This is the area I propose utilizing. We would take off half of this shelving, and the next slide would show the style of cooler that I propose utilizing in that area. The counter height and flat tops of these coolers would allow us to store it, use it as storage and display space in order to promote our products, while also allowing the sales staff to see over top of the cooler. And if I could get the next one, please. Due to the current lack of commercial real estate in Cresswell, I have been unable to locate a suitable place to expand. However, we are located in a small strip mall that often leaves room for expansion when other places leave or change their space. If I could, next slide, please. If unable to expand in a suitable time frame, I propose removing the 8x8 front office and utilizing that space for coolers and shelving to add SKUs. The custom desk and office would be moved to the back near the rear door. Next slide, please. More than just a store. Cresswell Store 1153 has become a source of pride for me. I've been a resident of Cresswell for nearly a decade, and I live 3 blocks away from the store. I have relationships inside and outside the store with customers, bar owners, restaurant owners, and others. I've worked hard to be here, and I'm willing and able to take it to the next step. If I can have the next slide, please. I plan to maintain the store's hours of 11 to 8, 7 days a week, while considering changes based on community needs. I would continue the practice of only closing 4 days a year: Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day, as our patrons have become quite accustomed to this style of being open most of the year. In closing, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity and for your consideration. And the next slide is just for questions if anyone has anything they'd like to ask.
Well, thank you. Commissioners,
Chairman?
Commissioner Doherty?
Yes, you've had 10 years experience running the store, and I want to know what your plans are for staffing. How are you going to, if you're successful here?
If I'm successful here, well, for one, I would be working full-time at the store. My wife is also employed at the store, so she would be working full-time at the store as well. That helps a lot. We currently have 2 long-standing employees that have been there for a long time, and as far as I understand, they intend to stay. So staffing issues should be as little as 1 or 2 extra hires upon selection.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? None?
I had one quick question here, Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Ryan, have you, so some of these proposed changes that you've made, have you discussed that with the prior owners, Bert and Glenda, before, or have you guys discussed making any modifications to the store while you were working there?
Yes, I was actually involved with the move in 2017. So some of the floor plan stuff was my idea. Granted, it was very much their move. I was just assisting with my background in construction. They have utilized my changes to shelf placements as well. They kind of allowed me to set up the floor plan at the store, actually.
Any other questions? What's your relationship to Marcus and Lisa Pope?
Just good friends. Started out as a customer. That he was one of those fellows that's searching for all the rare bourbons, and I helped him out a few times, and we became friends. We started hanging out. He's just been a good friend of mine. He's a member of the Eugene Police Department and believes that I have the skills to do this, so he said he would back me.
So they're the 2 of them are backing you 100%. It's all their money in this thing.
Other than my personal finances that I will use as necessary, absolutely, yeah.
Well, and this is, believe me, this is not negative of my part. I just want to understand it. The total amount of money that's going into this place, except for maybe a couple of $100, will be Marcus and Lisa Pope, and they're just going to lend you the money and then you'll pay it back. Is that? I mean,
Yes, we have a loan agreement. Yes, a 3 to 5 year payoff plan.
That's not in here from what I could see.
Oh, I apologize. I must have left out a document. I should have a letter in there, however, that does explain that they are releasing that money immediately as necessary for the sale of the store.
Okay, I got that.
It's dated March 18th, 2022.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't see anything.
The terms, you're looking at the
Okay.
terms, okay.
So they won't have any interest in the store?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Ryan,
Thank
thank
you.
you. You can go ahead and go on mute and turn off your camera if you'd like. The next applicant is Sarvjit Kaur. I hope I've done your name correctly. If you could turn on your video as well as unmute your microphone. Permissions there, Laura?
Look in here.
I should have already done it for you.
Right.
Sarvjit, are you there?
Do some, okay, let me use Paul's trick.
Paul's trick, he's the high-tech guy here now.
Had him in
Let me make him, yeah,
Hello.
there we go.
There you are.
Now we need the camera.
There you go.
There you go.
Good morning, Sarvjit. If you
Good
would,
morning, everyone.
state your name for the record, and Laura will pull up your presentation.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. My name is Sarvjit Kaur. Next slide, please. I would like to begin by sharing my experience. So I have been the owner of and manager of 3 convenience stores for 9 years. I have 14 of customer service experience, 14 years of customer service experience, and I'm managing up to 18 employees. We have increased sales over to $2.4 million for each store. And I have also increased selection of beer and wine. I do monthly inventory management. We have an excellent relationship with sales reps. We use up-to-date employees training. I do regular employee check-in for a mental and physical well-being. Next slide, please. So current store layout. So they have an ice chest and locator inside, so taking up the space. There are a couple space. There are a couple empty space inside that could be utilized. Not enough tobacco fixtures. Next slide, please. So improvement and solutions. It would be better to recolor the ice chest outside. Adding a beer cave and additional display will be eliminated to empty spaces. Although the sign is straightforward, it is simple and needs to be brighter and more inviting. And it would be beneficial to add a tobacco fixture in the counter area to increase the sale. So our operation is like not very long now. It's supposed to be like, we are going to be from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week, like all day long, years, like never closed, not even on any events. So not even in Christmas, we keep open always, 365 days. So our operation will be like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and all improvement should be done within 3 to 6 months. Next slide, please. So we greatly appreciate you taking the time to consider us for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Chair,
Commissioner?
I had a quick question. Thank you for your presentation. So are you currently the owner of one convenience store or is it 3 different convenience stores?
3 different convenience stores.
Are they, and I see your current location is in Sutherland, is that correct?
Yes. Yes. 2 in Sutherland, 1 in Oak Ridge.
2 in Sutherland and 1 in Oak Ridge?
Yes, ma'am.
How far away is Oak Ridge from? I know Sutherland, I looked it up, it's about 50 minutes outside of Cresswell. What about Oak Ridge? How far away is that from Cresswell?
From Cresswell is not very far. You can say half-hour drive.
Okay, and you currently live in Sutherland?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you plan on doing? Do you plan on your intention to keep all 3 of those convenience stores along with the if you were awarded the liquor store?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you think you can manage that well?
Yes, ma'am, because I have a family sports with me, so they support me a lot. I have kids. I have a 19-year-old daughter. So she is gonna, and my husband, he is helping me also.
Okay. You think you have the staffing, or have you been to the Cresswell store and have spoken to the staff? I don't know if you.
Yes, I have been there.
Okay. In regards to retention, do you think, are you just going to start off with a whole new staff, or?
No, like we can keep the same staff who is working. If they wish to work with us, we have no problem with that.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair.
Commissioner?
Thank you for your presentation. How do you propose to spend your time at the different stores? And how much time do you think you would be committing to the liquor store each week?
Right now with the 3 stores, so I have a manager, so they are like doing pretty much with me. Like I teach them how they can do like work for me. So we are planning to move to Creswell if we find any house there for this opportunity. So we're looking for the new house there, maybe Eugene area or in Creswell. So all the other store they're doing pretty well. I know have to give them too much time now. So I will be touching the Creswell store.
Have you thought about kind of what your schedule would be, how many hours per day or per week that you would be?
I usually work like almost 8 hours a day because the kids going to school, there's nobody at home, so I have to take care of them. Besides that, my parents, they're living with us too, so they take care of the home. I don't have to worry about my home, so I always just going to the store one to other and then other.
So the 8-hour day is, you're saying 8 hours in the liquor store or 8 hours between the 3 convenience stores?
Like it depends on how much they need it. If the liquor store needed more time, I can spend more time there. If they're doing good, so like depend on.
And then I noticed one of the bullets at the end, you said all improvements would be done in 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
What, I must have missed this, but did you detail what those improvements were going to be? I heard about the ice chest. What were some of the others?
So they have a like a ice chest, and we were thinking we make a like small beer cave there to add more stuff like beer or wine and like that kind of stuff, like add more tobacco pictures to increase the sale, that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Or change the sign. There will be one outside sign. We can change that to more brighter sign.
Any other question? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, and commissioners, if you will, the third presenter is Rushida Pambar. Rushida, if you could turn on your camera and unmute your mic.
Hello,
There you
everyone.
Great.
Hello. Good morning.
Okay,
Good morning.
if you would, please state your name for the record, and you'll have 5 to 7 minutes to complete your presentation. So whenever you're ready, Laura is pulling up the presentation. Give us 1 second here. And there you go.
Hello. So my name is Ruchita. It's Ruchita, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to view this presentation. So I'm gonna give the presentation regarding the 1153 liquor store located in Creswell, Oregon. Next slide, please. If I talk about my retail experience, like I work about more than 2 years as a retail store manager. Whenever I was working as a manager, like the overall sales, business sales, it's increased to 60% over the year. I was managing like up to 7 employees over there, and it was like totally take all responsibility, like since open the store since to close the store, like I was doing the inventory, managing the staff, training the staff, plus like I have the like a customer focus mindset, so I understand the business won't work without the happy and returning customer. I grew up in a business family, and I always like being the part of the discussion what we can improve to improve what we can make the plan to increase the business, or what we can do to increase the customer pool, and also what we can make the plan to make the customer happy and they can bring the another customer in a store. Next slide, please. So if I talk about the current design, you can see the, in a left side on your slide, the outside sign is look like too small. It could be like a need to bigger and brighter. So whenever you do go inside the store, like the layout is totally look all and disorganized, and the multiple items is sitting on the shelves. Like we could use the space to bring the more inventory, and like the store have the less, you can see the small looks so small because they have the bigger storage area. I'm so apologize because I can't able to take the picture for the storage area, but they have the more big the storage area. We could use this the storage area to make the store bigger, and like lighting and the paint is like totally outdated. Even the retailer counter is outdated, so we can give the modernized look. And even the current storage area, storage operation time is like they close early and open the late, so we could change the operation hours also. Next slide, please. So my goal and my vision to make this store the one-stop market. So my long-term goal to find the bigger space in the town and relocate the store over there in the future. But for right now, like if the landlord permit me to do this, I want to reduce the amount of the storage area and create the more space, so we can put the more shelving and the cooler in a store. So in a store, in my plan to put the 8 to 9 front door cooler for the beer or soda or liquor the customer who want the colder. And also I'm gonna add the new glass counter stop, the retailer checkout counter instead of the wood counter, because the idea behind that, I want to carry the luxury liquor, because right now they doesn't carry any luxury liquor. So I'm just gonna use this display for carry the luxury liquor, and this will help to increase the overall liquor sales. And I'm gonna also put some of the glass display counter on top of the counter, and I will use this glass display for the most profitable liquor, because as we all know, the eye level is buy level. You buy more if you see more. So I'm gonna use this display most profitable liquor, and plus I'm gonna put the LED lighting all over the store. This will give the new bright look, and this will improve the customer overall purchasing experience. And also I'm gonna add some layout, new shelving, and also gonna increase the height of the shelving. This will allow me to bring more inventory in a store. If we have more inventory, I think the more younger people or the more younger generation try to do new inventory. They like to buy new stuff every day. They don't like to buy every day same stuff. So if we have more space, we can bring the more inventory in the store, and thus overall increase the liquor sales business. Next slide, please. If I talk about the outside of the store, if I maintain the outside sign is look so small, so I'm gonna put the new LED bigger sign. This will give the new outlook from the outside. And also I'm gonna my plan to put the new LED poster on the wall, and this totally give the new attraction outside. So probably it's even the people can attract from outside and they want to come inside. And my plan to add improve my store for the handicapped people, because I want my goal to make this place to a welcoming and convenient for all our community. So my plan to reorganize the coloring, paint everything within the 120 days, and probably the new cooler and outside sign probably I will finish over the year. Next slide, please. So this is my floor plan. You can see it's have I make by my own. But yeah, you can see I make the smaller space in a storage area, and I'm gonna put the new shelving over there so I can put the more stuff in a back side even, and create the more space in a front area also. And I'm gonna change the operating hour, like I'm gonna open the store early in the morning like 9 o'clock and close the store around 10 p.m. and my plan to operate the store and open the store every single day, like 24 days, and I mean 7 days a week. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna doing almost I will like do my physical improvement, like the glass counter, shelving, paint will be finished within the 120 days, and the outside sign like the cooler, poster, and sign within the June 2023, like within the next year. And my goal is to turn this store into the one-stop market, and I believe that creating the fantastic customer experience doesn't happen by chance, it's happened by design. And my plan to establish this liquor store to be a server is a customer center, and customer would get whatever they pay for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The,
30 seconds, perfect timing.
Presentation. Any questions?
Chairman,
Commissioner Doherty?
thank you very much. A wonderful presentation. Appreciate you being here and giving us this opportunity. Why are you going into the liquor business?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Me too.
What's your question? Can you repeat it? I'm so sorry.
Why are you going into the liquor business? You're a nurse now, is that correct?
I am, yes. So actually, like being the owner or being the being the owner as a business, that's my dream. As I told you, like I grew up in a business family. I've always seen my family to how to take care of the business. Yes, as you know, the nursing is my profession, but the working as an owner, that's my passion. I mean, sometimes whenever you have passion, you have tried to do something. So I was working as a nurse because I want to saving some money to open the store. But whenever if you guys give me an opportunity, I live in Creswell and this is my big opportunity to own the store. That's why I think that's being me so exciting.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful. If I can ask you one more question, and I love your enthusiasm. We need that in this business. You've outlined some very extensive modifications. And do you know what this is going to cost? Have you got a budget for that?
Yeah, I think it's overall, it's gonna cost, I mean, everything, the outside sign and the cooler, everything is going to cost around 70 to 80K.
Okay,
And I think I do have a budget to do it.
great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Thank you for the presentation. It was very thorough. I was wondering, have you been into the store and talked with staff, with prior owners, and what would your proposal be on the current staff there?
So yeah, I've been to the store a couple of times, and probably I know a couple of the employees who they are work over there, and I think they have like a 3 to 4 full-time employee right now. So like my plan, if I choose to be an Asian, I'm gonna keep with the employee if they want to be. And I live in Creswell, as I mentioned, and I used to work as a manager in like a retail store. They also in a Creswell, so I know a couple of the employees who are interested to work over there. And even I'm the one who's gonna work over there because I'm so exciting to be over there.
So, any other questions? You included a sample Excel sheet. Can you explain to us what is this based off of? Are these just numbers pulled out of the sky or as an example, or is it based on the store?
Which one you talk about, sir? Sorry about.
We have a sample Excel sheet that's part of your presentation.
Oh, there's the Excel sheet, which one I made it. Like whenever I was working as a retail store manager, I made this Excel sheet to make me the report to a daily and monthly track. So this I created by myself.
So these are numbers that are random numbers, that they don't relate to.
Yeah. No, this is totally random numbers. That's not related to any business. That's that's only for a show up. Like what I was used to do is keeping track of the inventory.
You mentioned that your family is in business. What do they do, if I may ask?
So, like my family owns a convenience store.
A what?
The convenience store.
Convenience.
A convenience store, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like my dad used to own the convenience store, and my couple of the cousins, my cousin brother, they have the bunch of convenience store all around the Oregon. So like I grew up, and we usually discuss about how to increase the business, what we can do, and how to manage the profit and loss, and all kind of stuff. Whenever we have discussion.
So one last question. I'm just out of curiosity more than anything else. The presentation was excellent. The question that Commissioner Doherty asked, I was going to ask. You're presently working at 2 hospitals, correct?
Yes, sir. No, I mean, so I've already gave the resignation. My full-time work is a Special Hospital in a Springfield, Oregon. The Riverbend Special Hospital. I'm not working over there anymore. I already gave the resignation.
Your work history says that you're presently employed from January.
Yeah, I used to work over there, but after I applied for this business, I gave the resignation over there. So I'm not working over there anymore.
So my last question to you,
Mhm.
patient was excellent. Did you have any help in doing it, or did you do it by yourself?
No, actually, I do have family, like my brother, my dad. We live in same family in a Creswell, and so I do have enough help. Even my cousin brothers, they lives in Eugene, so if I need to help, they willing to help me out.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for your energy.
Yes. It fills the room.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we're going to move right to
Yes,
Hillsborough
please.
Lower, correct?
We do, that's what we made the decision on. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Chair Rosenbaum, Commissioners, again, Brian Fleming. This is for the appointment of Hillsborough Loa. This comes as a result of a tragic loss. Liquor agent died unexpectedly. The brother had intended to take over, could not do it. And so we appointed a temporary agent during this time to take over the continuation of the store. Ryan Phillips was an agent almost 18 years. So we honor, him and what he created. But today we're here for a permanent appointment, and we have 3 applicants. One of the applicants is the temporary agent running the store, so you know.
Which one's the temporary?
The second
Randy,
one. So
Gotcha.
with that said, Lax, are you on the phone or on the computer?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, if you can go ahead and turn on your camera, we can hear you loud and clear.
How about now? Can you see me?
There you are. Thank you. Okay, so Lax, give us just a second here to pull up your presentation.
Okay, so Lax, you're gonna have 7 minutes total, and about 6.5 minutes in, I'll give you a 30-second warning. Does that sound fair?
Sounds good, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, we're all set. So please state your name for the record.
Laxman Darlamy, and I go by Lax. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Just to give you an overview of my past experience, currently I work as a senior data analyst at Kembe Health Solutions. I have worked at other big 500 companies as a data analyst too in a technical field. I've also owned and operate a convenience store in Newburgh, Oregon for 5 years, and that gave me a lot of retail experience on how to handle the customers, how to run a business, do the auditing, manage employees, do the payroll all by itself. I also ran a e-commerce online store selling stuff on Amazon and eBay. Besides all those backgrounds, I'm also involved in two nonprofit organizations in Oregon. One is a chapter president and one is a vice president, which goal is to kind of help out the community members and educate them on the ongoing events. Also raise awareness. For example, we did during the COVID time, handed over a mask, sanitizations, and if somebody's relocating from anywhere to Portland, Oregon, if they need accommodation, we helped out with that too. So various activities on that. So as far as the education goes, I have a bachelor's degree from Oregon Institute of Technology in 2010. Next slide, please. There are a few changes that I would like to make to the store. First thing first, I would like to get a new location for this liquor store in Hillsboro, Ohio, Oregon, which is at least 25,000 square feet. And once you get that, my goal is to negotiate the tenant improvement allowance from the landlord, if that's possible. Do some, lightings and LED lightings, with a bigger, neon open sign. I also like to add, some huge coolers for the beer and beverages, just expand the selection of products that we sell. I see that, that store currently doesn't have a lot of grocery items. I would like to kind of add more grocery items to working with the OLCC district manager to find out the products that's trending in the demographic area. And I'll also add a new point of system for the checkout, which will track the inventory and help me audit the inventory in real time from anywhere where the data would be saved in the cloud. And again, as usual, replacing the old furnitures and fixtures with the new one. Our sort of operations would be from Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Next slide, please. This is some of the pictures that I Googled for, the interior design of a new location. It's kind of elegant looking. They call it like casket and barrel design, where the customers would feel very comfortable with some nice ambient music in the background, so that they feel relaxed and stays hang out more to buy more items. Next slide, please. Again, more pictures of the future design of a new location. As you can see over there, we'll definitely have better checkout counter than that showing in the picture. We'll have like two person to checkout counter. One will always be dedicated there, one for a backup. Next slide, please. This is just a rough sketch of the floor plan. This will definitely change based on the location and the possibility of finding a new place. But just wanted to throw it out there. Thank you. Next slide. As far as the management team goes, I'll be hiring an assistant manager to help out with the daily stuff. Also hire at least 3 staff members, one dedicated for the checkout and two for to help out on the floor with the questions for clients, and one for the restocking. And I'll also have a part-time bookkeeper to keep the finances straight for the business. And the estimated cost for this is $300,000, $222 for the buyout, estimated $50K for the design, working capital $30K for the cash flow, and then $50,000 from the TIA. For the marketing plan, we'll do some direct mail strategy within the 3 miles of that location. We'll contact local media and use social networking For the grand opening, we'll advertise in the local newspapers and then sponsor community events to just to gain awareness and let them feel that like, hey, we're here. We'll also create a website where we can, have members sign up to receive monthly newsletter, and using that newsletter, could be monthly or weekly, we can promote the promotions going on into the store. Definitely, other extra services that I'm thinking to offer in that store is providing gift wrap service so that when people are coming to buy, wine, beer, or like anything, and go to friends' house for a party or like Christmas, then they have like, nice little decoration, for the items they buy. Also, we'll work on retaining the licensees and provide extra service with the delivery. We'll also look into catering a alcohol division so that we can, capitalize on the private events. And to do all of these, definitely the OLCC district manager's role is going to be very critical, because this is my first time going with a liquor store business, and with his history and experience of working in this industry for the last 4 decades, that would help a lot. Next slide, please. This is the sales forecast. I read in the article that Oregon liquor consumption is up by 25%, but this sales forecast is very conservative. I like to not overpromise and underdeliver, so that's why 10% is the year-to-year change. Loss prevention. So we're gonna have cameras all over the place where you can't see directly from the counter. At the back room, stocking room, we'll put some sign gauges and posters that will discourage theft. We'll audit cigarettes, tobaccos every day. We'll audit state lottery and scratches every day. And then, okay. Public safety, we'll card everyone who looks under 40. We will install, ID verification scanner that will tell whether it's a fake ID or real ID. We'll train employees to identify the visibly impaired customers, looking at their behavior, their physical structure, their speech, and all that. So anyway, with all this diverse experience that I have in the background with retail, e-commerce, technology, and being a social campaigner, helping out the local community, I think I'm the best fit for this liquor store, given the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lex.
Good, and thank you, timekeeper.
Good job. No, thank you for the heads up. That's 6:30. That helped a lot.
Good.
Any questions?
Chairman, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. That was excellent. You currently have a convenience store and you have a full-time job in addition to that convenience store?
No, sir. I sold that convenience store in 2019, so I only have a full-time job right now.
Great, thank you. And then will you be working full-time at this, if you're successful here? Will be full-time at the store?
Yes. So my plan is to take a PTO for about I have tons of PTO rolled over from last week, due to COVID, not going anywhere. But I'll first take like at least 1.5 months or 2 of PTO work, tirelessly at the store, and when everything is set in a group, I have family members to help me out too. I have like my nieces and my wife to help me with the store. So if it's needed, I can quit the job, but I wish to continue my full-time job as well.
But you don't plan on leaving your full-time job, do you?
Well, if needed, I will definitely.
Well, I don't understand if needed. You have a very significant job right now, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I mean, it seems like you're managing quite a number of people, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm a senior analyst, so I just report to my manager. So I don't have anybody to, manage at this time at my current job.
Well, what I was saying is you work with executives and other business leaders, so the job is quite extensive in what you're holding. So are you going to take a leave of absence from this job, or are you going to leave it?
I will leave it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Lax, Chair?
Yes, of course.
Hi, Lax. Thank you for your presentation. Out of curiosity, your convenience store that you sold, did you make a profit or?
Yes, ma'am. I did. I didn't make a profit, but the reason I sold at the time was we had our second baby, who is now 2.5 years old, and I wanted to spend some time with the family, and I wanted to give break to my wife as well, just to raise the kids at home. I have another son who is 6 years old as well, who goes to school now. So that's the reason why I sold that store.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Lex. Randy Guerra, are you there? And do you have, oh, there we are.
I'm here, present.
And Lex, if you go ahead and just turn your camera off and we'll let Randy present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy, you'll have 7 minutes. At the 6.5 mark, I'm going to give you a 30-second warning. Does that sound fair?
Sounds fair, Commissioner Floyd. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Rosenbaum, Commissioners. My name is Randy. My name is Randy Guerra. I'm here presenting on behalf of Randley LLC for the Sunset Store, as you know. Due to the unfortunate passing of, next slide, please. Due to the unfortunate passing of my friend and colleague, Ryan Phillips, last summer, I stepped in to operate as a temporary agent. But within 10 days of the OLCC agreeing for me to do this, we were up and operational. Tried to make it a smooth transition for Ryan's brother and the OLCC. If I'm appointed today, Dustin Anderson, who has been with me for over 16 years. I'm currently the agent at the Cedar Mill store and have been there since 2002. Dustin has been with me for 16 years, and he would be purchasing a 25% share in Randley LLC. He again has a lot of experience in all facets of the store, and most recently has been managing both stores with me. Next slide, please. Even though we're only the temporary agents, we felt that there were several changes and improvements that could be made initially to make a significant improvement. We started out with things like lighting, phone system. We hired a painter to come in. We created a website. We feel like it's paid off in that we have gotten a tremendous amount of industry feedback and, most importantly, positive customer feedback. Next slide, please. This is what the store looked like on day one. It definitely needed some attention. Next slide, please. Next slide, thank you. Yeah, here we are on day one. And you can see that there's a lot of things that, for instance, a cigarette merchandiser hanging over the counter. It's a small space, so we tried to open it up as much as we possibly could by getting rid of anything that wasn't related to the liquor business. There was a lot of smoke shop items, CBD items, things like that. So we decided to focus on liquor and more related items. Next slide, please. This is what the store looks like today. You can see we've completely re-merchandised it and organized it, did a lot of decluttering. Next slide, please. This is just another angle. Next slide, please. We reset the tequila section. We relocated the mix section. You can see we've added mirrors, signs, decor, just to try to improve it. Even though, again, that we're only the temporary agents, we thought it was important to start making immediate improvements, just to make it easier for the team and for the customers' shopping experience. Next slide, please. Why we feel we're the right choice for the store is, first and foremost, we have a lot of experience. I've got an incredible team, some of them with decades of liquor and related industry experience. We understand the responsibility of selling alcohol. We take it very seriously. We have operated as a two-store agent and are currently doing so now. We have a great relationship with the vendors and OLCC licensees. We have everything in place for a seamless transition. All our bank accounts, insurance, payroll services, licenses. We work with a fabulous CPA and payroll organization and have a great legal team as well. Next slide, please. I included a couple slides of the current store that we are the permanent agent for, which is the Cedar Mill store. You can see in 2002, it was 2,000 square feet over to the left there. In 2012, we had moved to a new location, and next slide, please. We now occupy about 5,000 square feet and continue to innovate and make changes regularly. We believe it's important to evolve with the times, to continue to keep it interesting for our customers and attract new customers. Cedar Mill finished number 10 last year in OLCC sales out of the nearly 300 stores. We're quite proud of that. And again, that is due to many factors, but I give a lot of credit to our team. We have a lot of dedicated, hardworking individuals. We did not close one day during COVID. And although it's been a little more challenging between the two stores, we managed to do $1.5 million in sales in the month of December alone. Next slide, please. Sunset sales have declined over the last several years. You can see in 2016, the store was doing a little over $4.3 million and ranked at 38. In 2021, it was down to $3 million, just a little over $3 million, and ranked at 115. The next slide, I think, tells it all. We're trending this store up again. Out of the last 8 months that we've been the temporary agent for the store, 6 of those months we've made the OLCC's published top 20 list. You can see in December, we had larger sales increases than almost any store in the state, coming in at number 2 and nearly 19% increase in sales. Since we've been at this store, we've done over $2.5 million in sales. Next slide, please. The goals and aspirations for this store are simply to relocate it, to modernize it, and basically start from scratch. We believe this store has the potential to be a $7 to $8 million store within a year of relocating it. Next slide, please.
Did you say 7 million?
Yes, sir.
Relocating?
Yes, after a full year of relocating, we believe we could get this store to at least a $7 million store. And frankly, with what the rents are in the area, we would need to.
When do you have it in your mind, the timetable for relocating?
Yes, our goal would be to sign a 1-year lease where we are. And we are actively negotiating, although right now we're kind of considered looky-loo since we don't have the appointment, but we have been actively negotiating on a building 1 mile north. In fact, if you'll go to the next slide, I can show you what we have been looking at. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is approximately a mile north of the existing location. It's a former Pier 1 building that is about 10,000 square feet. 4,000 square feet approximately is going to be taken by the Banfield Pet Hospital, but that leaves nearly 6,000 square feet that we would like to occupy. It's anchored by Trader Joe's, Safeway. It's on the corner of 185th and Evergreen, which is one of the busiest intersections in the state, or pardon me, in Washington County. Traffic counts are over 60,000 there, which is over twice what we have at the Cedar Mill store or at the current location of this store. Next slide, please. So we would start from, the ground up. It would be a completely new store. So everything would be replaced. We would be we don't plan on using really very much of the existing fixtures or equipment. We would start with new shelves, counters, coolers, signage, porch decor, security system. Right now we have at our other store a 35 camera security system.
Randy, we've got 30 seconds.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, I'd say that even though we have a lot of experience doing this, we would rely on OLCC feedback and input and architects and store designers to create a shopping experience that would be modern. And if you want to go to the next slide, please, you can kind of just tear through. And next slide, please. Kind of an idea of how we would set the store. And next slide, please. Kind of the look that we have in mind. And with that, I'll just say thank you for your consideration. We appreciate being here. Would love to answer any questions if there are some.
Randy, you've got the store over by Sunset High School now, right?
That's correct, Commissioner Melius.
I was just getting confused. We talked at the agent conference here. Yeah, it's I was getting confused because this one's called Sunset. But you know, we had the folks come in last month. Were applying for Salem, Salem North, and it's such a busy area. It's kind of the same with 185th. It's not as much new development, but that area is just booming. So it really takes a effective agent, somebody that stepped up. And Jack, you come in. Commend you for stepping up and stepping in at that store's time of need. I think it was having a steady hand on the wheel is always important. So thank you for that. I don't really have any questions, but great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Melius. I appreciate that.
Randy, could you, what do you attribute the increase in sales and in that short amount of time you brought the store back to life in some sense? What do you attribute that to?
Well, thanks for the question, Commissioner Kern. I think a lot of it was bringing in new products. Of course, having one of the larger stores in the state, we have a great relationship with a lot of vendors. And the store had kind of drifted, I'd say, from a traditional liquor store in that they had a lot of, it was almost becoming like a smoke shop. And what we did is we essentially decluttered a lot of those things that weren't really related to liquor and what we would consider the more traditional or conventional related items. So we got rid of like candles and 50 different types of flavored tobaccos, and there was just a lot of miscellaneous things. So we were able to create additional space, even though it is a small space. We created a lot of additional space, and then we brought in a lot of the new products that are being released. And again, we have I think, a very good working knowledge of trends and what sells, having been in the business for so long. So I'd say that mostly by cleaning it up. We also started emphasizing customer service. Again, we have a great team. We've been able to pull employees that are very well trained and have a lot of experience from Cedar Mill and kind of help them train the staff at the Sunset Liquor Store to focus on customer service. And again, just kind of putting the focus on customer wants and needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yeah.
Randy, I just also want to echo the sentiments of our commissioners, other commissioners here. Great job, and kudos to you and your team for stepping up and taking on this, as well as your out-of-pocket, what was it, I think $6,300 that you put into this?
Yes, and I know that's a little risky as a temporary agent, but we felt that really some changes needed to be done, right away. Thank you.
Yeah, the store looks a lot more inviting and warm, and the re-merchandising it looks great. So just wanted moreover just to say thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flood. I appreciate those kind words.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, we have our last presenter, David Wolf. Thank you, Randy. David Wolf, please turn on your camera and unmute your microphone. David, are you on here? I'm gonna go and see if I can find him.
I got him.
You got him? Should have already had meeting rights.
He does. Let's make him a presenter and see if that works. I don't know what the different settings, why. But.
Thank you for that. I'm here. And
okay.
I'm here with my business partner, Stephen Besser. We are we would be 50-50 owners in the business, just to give you context.
Okay, so when we get started here, we get the presentation up, state your name for the record. As soon as we get that rolling, and looks like it's up, and Commissioner Floyd will be timing the presentation. We'll give you a warning at the 6-minute 30 mark for 30 seconds remaining. So with that said, please take it away.
All right, I am David Wolf.
Next slide, please. And I'm Stephen Besser.
We are Triple Creek Beverage, and again, I'm David Wolf. I have 6 years of
Hold on.
Sorry, to clarify, before you begin, when you said you're gonna be 50-50 owners, is one of you a silent investor, or are you both gonna be working the store?
The intent would be that we're both working the store, but I would be the primary manager.
And that's David talking?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm David Wolf. My background is I have 6 years of starting and running my own online e-commerce retail business. I have 7 years as a branding developer at Nike, and before that, I have 3 years as a bartender and server. I grew my online business from $0 to $800,000 in annual revenue in 6 years.
And my name's Stephen Besser. I'm a practicing chiropractor, and I've owned and operated my own clinic for 11 years. I also have 7 years in the grocery business. I grew my practice from $0 to $700,000 in 8 years. Next slide, please. As we said, we'd be 50-50 partners, and how we would partner is David would be stepping back from Nike to become the primary on-site manager, but we will co-manage the day-to-day operations. Both of us have mature, stable businesses, which allows us both to be involved in the store. We both have experience hiring, firing, and building a team. Next slide, please.
So we want to talk about what's important to us. So our first and highest priority is keeping the community and our employees safe. We want to retain as much staff as possible, and any staff we do add, we want to ensure they're from the surrounding community so that when customers visit, they feel well connected and represented at the store. It's our goal to offer the highest level of customer service possible, which will hopefully increase sales and profit and ultimately revenue for the state. Next slide, please. So for security, when we toured the store, it looked like that all the traditional security measures were put in place. So we would just want to make sure that those are functioning well, and any refreshes that needed to be done on equipment or updating would be done. We'd want to make sure that the employees have fresh training on responsible selling. Make sure we have good overlap of schedules and prioritize customer engagement to reduce theft. Next slide, please. So our 3 strategic priorities would be to increase sales, refresh the current store, but most of all, find a bigger location. Next slide, please. So what we did is we gathered some sales data from the 3 closest stores within a radius from this store. And we averaged the sales of those 3 stores. And what we found is this store clocks in well below the average of those 3 stores, which tells us there's huge opportunity. So we believe that we could at least double the consumer sales, and the licensee sales have a potential to 10x. Next slide, please. So what we would do first, we'd like to take a look at a full inventory analysis based on the last year. And we want to make sure that the most popular products are proportionally represented at the store. Low selling, low turnover products, we'd like to remove to introduce more premium products in those popular categories. This will enable the most potential for the staff to upsell. And we also want to implement an employee profit sharing program, which would incentivize the employees to upsell as well. Next slide, please. We would really like to connect with licensees and expand that business. As you saw from our analytics, that's where the most opportunity exists. So we'd want to meet with the current licensees to establish that relationship, begin a delivery service, which we estimate $30,000 for a van. Connect with local property managers in the area. That way we get a head start on any incoming restaurants or bars that would need our services. And we will also want to just get feedback and adjust our business as needed to our licensees. Next slide, please. We'd like to establish an aggressive social media presence. So when a customer visits the store, they're only in there 5 to 10 minutes. So that leaves 23 hours and 50 minutes theoretically per day that you can be engaging customers on new products, seasonal products, recipes, store info, hours, closures, etc. Next slide, please.
We would also increase the store hours to what you see on the screen there. We would like to add an end cap with a seasonal assortment and local products. Next slide. We'd like to do a store refresh. So for the external store refresh, we would do the items you see on the screen, and we feel like this would improve the external appearance of the store. Next slide, please. Internally, we'd like to update some finishes. We'd like to do LED lights, paint, countertop, a digital wrap for the front of the counter, which we could change throughout the year. Also add a security monitor at the entrance to help increase the security so people see themselves walking into the store. Next slide, please. The next item on our list is to find a bigger location. So we zeroed in on the old Pier 1 Imports as our leading candidate for a new store. It's highly visible, plenty of parking, great anchors, and has easy access to Highway 26. Next slide. So here you can see the current location, the proposed location, and Highway 26. These two locations are only 5 minutes apart, which would minimize the disruption in current business. We've also reached out to the property manager, and he said they will divide that space down to a 2,500 to 3,000 square foot range. Next slide, please. Bigger location, which would help us generate more sales. We can increase the SKU count in the areas that matter. We can offer a unique selection of beer and wine to help draw in a new crowd. And we can also build a destination store and wow our customers from entry to exit. We did a small little mock-up of a 3,000 square foot to scale floor plan. And our 5-year target would be to meet the averages of the 3 stores around us. Next slide, please. Our inspiration for the store would be roughly based off of the baseline liquor store. We like their open exposed ceilings. We do some modern finishes throughout. We might do wood floors, but we also like the polished concrete look. And then we do kind of a two-tone, bright inviting paint scheme.
And then also with the digital wrap there, it would give us opportunity to do temporary prints, whether it's seasonal or, to adjust for having more marketing there at the checkout counter. And next slide, please.
And you got about a little less than 30 seconds remaining.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. So in conclusion, we just really want to thank you for the opportunity. And we're incredibly excited to be here and be able to present to you all. A little fun side note there is I think that if you look at that interior shot we have of the proposed location, if you zoom in, you can actually see Randy in there. It was a funny coincidence that we were both scoping out that location at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice presentation. Question.
Right, quick one. Have you guys been in the liquor business before, or I think I missed that part?
No, we are just enthusiasts about liquor.
I worked at a grocery store, which sold liquor in California, but.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, just curious. And when you answered my second one, it's good. I was going to ask why you wanted to get into it, but it sounds like enthusiast. So
yeah. Well, I do have some background. I have several years of bartending and server experience. I'm a big cocktail enthusiast myself. And I guess like something that is inspirational for me is I love that oftentimes spirits are at the center of celebrations and gatherings. And it's a big part of the community, having helping people celebrate well and gather around the holidays and all that.
Yeah, sure is. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, just to get, in my mind, Subi Brothers, David, will continue to operate. You are going to take a leave of absence, or are you leaving Nike if you get this?
Leave Nike.
You're gonna leave Nike.
But I retain the online business, yes.
Okay. And Stephen, you obviously gonna keep on practicing.
Correct.
So you won't be in the store at all.
I will be. I have a fairly generous schedule, I'll say. So our we could actually have like overlapping schedules. So I could be there every day.
Thank you very much. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're obviously gonna go into executive session. Before I do that, this, I'm just thinking out loud for a second. All of these appointments and all of the upgrades are incredibly important. Not only for them, but you know, if this proposal goes on the ballot, we need to be in a position of having first-class stores all over the state to do the work that's supposed to be done. And I'm very gratified to see this upgrade that's happening and certainly to the consumers. It gives us that position to say, look, you've got something, don't break something that's not broken, you know, don't fix something that's not broken. So, I mean, this all goes into play as we're talking about this.
Yeah, don't put 300 people out of business.
Yeah, well, of course. So, the commission will now go into executive sessions to deliberate on the agent selection pursuant to the authority of ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub A. If there are members of the media present, representative of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Representative of the media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions may be made in executive session. We will return to the open session in this room. We are now in recess. We are back from executive session rather than recess.
Right.
And we will now move on our decision on agent selection. The first one is the Crestwell store at 1153. Who has the motion?
Commissioner. This is Commissioner Doherty. I move to appoint Ryan Gilpatrick as the permanent agent at store 1153 Crestwell, effective May 1st, 2022.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
and Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Hillsborough, lowest store 1181.
I move to appoint Randley LLC as the permanent agent of store 1181 Hillsborough, Aloha, effective May 1st, 2022.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. We thank everybody for the presentations. They were very impressive and the discussion was lively to say the least. But thank you so much and congratulations to the two people who were selected. We're on to rules. Kelly, you're up. Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job as usual. Good afternoon. It's 10 after 12.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Rosenbaum and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Kelly Rout. I'm the Policy, Rules, and Public Records Advisor for the OLCC. And before we get started, I do want to introduce Nicole Blase to my right. She is our newly hired Rules Coordinator. So from here on out, she will be presenting rules, but I'm going to do it today.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to working with all of you and happy to be here. It's our second week, so we decided not to put her. I just learned how to turn on my computer.
I promise we'll take it easy on you. Only for a little while, though.
Got it, perfect. So today we do have 7 rulemaking actions for your consideration and action. We have 2 temporary and initial actions and then 5 initial actions. And so I will read a summary of each into the record and we'll just take them one at a time. I'll do an introduction and then you can ask any questions you might have and take a vote and we'll go from there. So first up is a temporary and initial action for a marijuana license moratorium. The 2022 Oregon Legislature passed House Bill 4016, of which Section 1 imposes a moratorium on new producer, processor, wholesaler, and retail applications. The legislation requires that OLCC inactivate new applications received after January 1, 2022 for these license types. For applications received on or before January 1, applicants must timely submit a land use compatibility statement and applicants may not change location or ownership of these applications. This section of House Bill 4016 is effective on passage, which requires OLCC to pass temporary rules to implement the license moratorium. The moratorium is in effect until March 31, 2024. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners?
Well, let me think.
God knows we've been through this.
I know, we have, and it's funny because it's like, both sides on this issue seem to think that there's just, one side of the coin on it. And I think from all of our perspectives, we see both sides of it. We see that there's people that are very happy with this and we see that there's people that are very unhappy. I think the legislature made a decision they came to, and it's, we've always had a unique system in Oregon, and I think it's there's no easy way to do this. So I think I commend the staff, I commend everybody, kind of putting their 2 cents in, and we'll keep chugging along with it. So thank you all for that. It's not been easy for sure, or not been uncontroversial. But anyways.
Well, there's an old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. So necessity is the mother of legislation in this case. Okay, I need a motion.
All right, I move to temporarily amend OAR 845-025-1131 and 845-025-1132, effective April 25th, 2022 to October 21st, 2022. Initiate rulemaking on this action and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Melitas,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Second temporary and initial action is for reporting sex and human trafficking at a marijuana license premises. 2022 Oregon Legislature passed House Bill 4074, of which Section 2 sets requirements for reporting sex trafficking or other human trafficking. Employees or workers at a marijuana license premises must report to a law enforcement agency or the OLCC if the employee or worker has a reasonable belief that sex trafficking or other human trafficking is occurring at the premises. Employees or workers must also report if they have a reasonable belief that a minor is employed or contracted at the premises in a manner that violates OLCC rules. We will be adopting a new rule because we don't have one that exists. We do have a temporary rule on the alcohol side, just for information. This section of House Bill 4074 is effective upon passage, which requires OLCC to adopt a temporary rule to implement the legislation. Happy to answer any questions.
Chair,
I need a motion.
I move to temporarily adopt OAR 845-025-5585, effective April 25th, 2022 to October 21st, 2022. Initiate rulemaking on this action and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Melitas,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. So the remainder of the rulemaking actions that I will be discussing are initial action only. So these are the purposes to get the ball rolling on these packages. So the first one is 2022 marijuana legislative and technical changes. This is a perennial package that we have. The Oregon legislature passed House Bills 4016 and 4074, which will require amendments to administrative rules set forth in Chapter 845, Division 25, and possibly 26. Legislative changes include requirements for laboratory employees to obtain worker permits and allowing relocation of a marijuana retailer if the OLCC becomes aware that a school is located within 1,000 feet of that retailer. OLCC staff also proposed to initiate rulemaking to make technical amendments and corrections to administrative rules in Chapter 845, Divisions 25 and 26. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I need a motion.
Chair, I move to initiate rulemaking and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Next package is what we're calling marijuana metric batch tagging. Currently, OLCC producers and medical growers reporting in Metric, our cannabis tracking system, are required to use single-use RFID tags on all individual plants 36 inches or higher. OLCC staff have heard concerns regarding the cost of these tags, both in terms of the material cost as well as the labor cost of affixing and managing individual tags. OLCC staff propose amendments to plant tagging requirements that would reduce the number of RFID tags required in order to balance accountability for reporting and compliance with lower costs for producer licensees and medical growers required to report in Metric.
There, no question, just a comment. Yeah, this one is, and I really commend staff for
That's a good one.
yeah, taking it on, because it's one of the things where, you know, it's like, I came on this in 2017, and like some of us that have been here a while remember, like, those days were a lot different than now. Like, we all got hauled into, you know, the U.S. Attorney's Office when they were, you know, they were saying that then the HIDTA drug trafficking report came out. So I mean, the tracking of cannabis is still important, but at the same time, it's a tremendous burden on. I mean, it's hard for the industry folks to keep up with that, and things have evolved. And so it's great that we're taking a look at it. I know the legislature took a look at it, and there was, you know, some of our counterparts at the legislature were eager to see this addressed. So it's great the agency has taken it upon themselves to look at this and look at how we can help licensees out. It's not, you know, it's easy to point out problems. It's a lot harder to come up with the solutions for them, a lot harder. So I'm glad we're really starting this process. So great job. Thank you.
Amen.
Good point. Chair, I move to initiate rulemaking and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, marijuana license reassignment program. The Oregon legislature passed House Bill 4016, which states that the OLCC may adopt rules to establish a program to assign expired or relinquished marijuana licenses to qualified applicants. The program applies to producer, processor, wholesaler, and retailer licenses. OLCC staff proposed to initiate rulemaking to explore development of a program that identifies qualified applicants and assigns licenses to those applicants from a pool of expired, surrendered, or canceled licenses. Staff will utilize the rulemaking process to engage with and elicit feedback from persons and communities likely to be affected by the rule.
Boy, we got a lot of common sense in here today.
I'll chime in on that one too. I think this is with the moratorium coming into play, and the advantage Oregon always had is you're very open. We let everybody in. We let everybody have an opportunity. Necessity means, you know, because of a lot of things going on, you know, moratorium makes sense. The legislature's put it in place, and you know, but I think the reassignment program is going to be a thoughtful way to allow people into the system. And, hopefully the market will stabilize for folks and we'll see some changes. And so people aren't entering into as volatile of a market as it's been the last several years. But I think that this is going to be a good program. It's also going to be a tough one because there's not ever going to be a way to make everybody happy in this thing. So I commend staff for kind of talking to all the folks that are still remaining in the industry and speaking out on behalf of this and doing what we can to do our best on this thing, because it's important, I think, that there's always an opportunity for people to succeed in this, but with the caveat, this is always going to be challenging until we, get the waters calmed a little bit. But anyways, that's thank you for setting this one up too. Is that mine to read? Okay, so.
I think I got it. That's mine. Chair, Commissioner Doherty here. I move to initiate rulemaking and to hold the rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd.
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus.
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, stepping away from marijuana specific packages, this one is our 2022 bottle bill package. The 2022 Oregon Legislature passed Senate Bill 1520, which directs OLCC to develop and provide signage to dealers describing the reasons a dealer may refuse to accept and to pay the refund value for empty beverage containers. The notices may contain additional information as determined by OLCC. Senate Bill 1520 also requires distributors who are not a member of a distributor cooperative and who sold more than 500,000 containers in Oregon in the previous calendar year to establish a program to provide redemption services in a distributor's distribution area that are comparable to services provided by a distributor cooperative. Redemption services may include, but are not limited to, operation of a full service redemption center, drop-off service for beverage containers, retail pickup service, and any other services required by OLCC by rule. These provisions of Senate Bill 1520 become operative on January 1st, 2023. Happy to answer any questions.
The only thing what are the reasons the dealer, there's something that's going on here now that why do the dealers want to refuse payment?
Chair Rosenbaum, I don't have the answer to that question. I think I haven't been following the legislation very closely, but.
Does anybody know?
I think it's a challenge without being part of the cooperative, I think it's a challenge. I think hopefully, the cooperative does a great job. So I think it's maybe to encourage folks to be a part of it would be my thought. I'm not super familiar with it.
I'm good. Well, I've got some.
I think it's possible that in areas where their distributors are more prevalent as opposed to distributor cooperative to be able to provide those similar services to customers that may not be available in certain
Well, we're
areas.
going to find out.
We are going to find out, yes.
Okay.
So there will be robust discussions about that.
I need a motion.
I move to initiate rulemaking and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion on the 2022 bottle bill package.
Commissioner Kern.
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd.
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus.
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
And finally, this package is called Contested Case Discovery Rules. The Department of Justice Model Rules of Procedure for Contested Cases allow an agency to provide by rule that some or all discovery methods set forth in Oregon Administrative Rule 137-003-0566 do not apply. OLCC staff proposed to amend its rules in Chapter 845, Division 3 regarding contested cases by limiting certain discovery methods to avoid unduly complicating the hearings process and to account for the volume of OLCC's caseload. Happy to answer any questions.
Chairman.
Commissioner.
What's driving this?
The administrative hearing staff has a large caseload of all types of cases, whether they're marijuana or alcohol cases. And in order to try and further streamline the process to potentially limit some of the large requests for admissions or interrogatories that we receive that slow down the process for certain cases, affecting our ability to reach all of our cases in a timely manner. So the hearings division wants to explore ways to perhaps streamline those processes, which is a mechanism that is allowed under the sort of model rule umbrella.
Great, thank you.
Chair,
Commissioner?
I move to initiate rulemaking and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for
Well,
getting
that
through all
was
those
easy.
rules.
Thank you. Job well done.
And welcome to our new employee here.
Thank you very much.
I'm not promising it's gonna be that easy. We're at compliance and the first one, oh, there you are. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Andy, you wanna, let's take three of them, let's do them separately. Let's do the alcohol violation stipulation settlement agreements first. You wanna tell us a little about Boomtown and
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners, and for the record, my name is Andy Chiller, the Administrative Hearings Division, here to present the stipulated settlement agreements for your ratification. Boomtown Saloon, Chair Rosenbaum, you wanted to just a little more information about that one, is that correct?
oh, just a little bit.
Sure. The inspection started as a standard site inspection. This was during COVID times. So the inspector went to the premises to determine the status of compliance with the masks and social distancing rules and mandates under the executive order. While there, spoke to the premises bartender just about there was actually a lack of compliance with the masking requirements. So the inspector attempted to talk to the bartender about the rules, educate her about masking, and in an attempt to help her get the patrons to be in compliance. While the inspector was conversing with the bartender, there were seemingly intoxicated and increasingly rowdy and harassing patrons in the premises that ended up threatening the inspector and causing him to leave the premises after only about 8 minutes in the bar. There was also a violation issued not only to the licensee, but also to the permittee for the action, or actually more accurately, inaction on that date.
The reason why, first of all, does anybody have any questions about this one?
I do, but you can go.
This
ahead
was
first.
Yeah, and I was gonna call on you. Here's what I'm asking. The reason I asked you to do this is that it seems to be a second level category 3 violation, is not stiff enough. And I don't know, I was gonna ask Commissioner Floyd, her opinion on that. I don't know, I don't deal with it every day, but when you have an intoxicated person screaming at an OLCC representative and nobody in the place does anything about it, I guess you can't hold responsible a commissioner. I'm looking to you for that.
Yeah, well, I look at it, this was during a period of time where customers, it was just extremely volatile. And, a lot of folks in the industry that work in the industry, all of our permittees, our licensees were getting screamed at, yelled at, berated on a daily basis. And I don't really know exactly what went on here, but the bartender who the inspector spoke to was just an employee, so just a permittee, right? And so this is where it kind of gets under my skin a little bit on these types of infractions is, does the inspector, does he ever tell was it he or she, I'm sorry, the inspector?
The inspector was a male.
Did he ever inform the employee, before I say that, Andy, the reason why these get under my skin is because you got an unruly customer and, the licensee is held with the bag. The licensee is held with the infraction, a $5,000 stiff penalty from something that the customer did. And I realize that, you've got a duty, a responsibility to step in and try to, you know, do something. But, you know, the difference between an employee and the licensee, the permittee and the licensee is the one that's going to be held, you know, holding the bag. And did that inspector, did he ever tell the employee permittee, hey, if you don't step in and take some sort of reasonable measures here, that this could be a $5,000, you know, infraction? Did he ever tell that to the employee? Do you know?
Commissioner Floyd, from what was documented in the report, it's not clear exactly what instruction the inspector gave to the employee. A little more context, though, on their interaction might be helpful. So the inspector and the bartender were at one end of the bar, and the inspector had asked the permittee to produce her service permit, and he was also in the process of discussing the mask mandates and the rules. She expressed concern about being able to get the patrons to comply, and she had asked the inspector if he could make the patrons wear the mask. And he explained to her that in this situation, as you understood, it was a volatile time. It was very hard for licensees. It was very hard for permittees, but it was also very hard for the inspectors. And he said, in my position right now in the bar, I would not want to announce myself as OLCC and flash a badge and try to get people into compliance, because it could create a pretty volatile, heightened environment. And it would not be beneficial. And it was after that point where she went to walk off to get her service permittee that she informed the rowdy customer that the inspector was in fact an inspector. So it wasn't, the circumstances were not such that that education in the moment was really, there was really time for it. And again, the entire time period that the inspector was in the premises was a total of 8 minutes. So he had told the permittee that announcing that I am with the OLCC would probably heighten tensions in the location. So I wouldn't want to do that. She then went and said, oh yeah, he's an inspector with OLCC, which then in fact had that exact result of the patrons getting more aggressive and heightened and really confronting him and becoming more in his face, so to speak. So I don't know if the facts of this case in particular would lend itself to him explaining to her responsibility in the moment of keeping order in the premises.
Yeah. My thing is, it's, you know, because I think that even if it was just a great employee, if she would have known that, hey, your boss is going to be held pretty, you know, with a huge violation here, potentially $5,000, you know, I'm sure she probably would have tried to step in and intervene or do something. But, you know, again, going back to, this is a very precarious position that employees are in. You know, we're talking about different parts of the state you can go to. I'm sure a lot of the inspectors didn't want to, you know, announce themselves as, they were put in a pretty precarious position too.
And I would just want to add to that, and I think why, you know, Commissioner Floyd, and I've also, you know, been one to voice my opinion, and I would say to Chair Rosenbaum that I think it's still too stiff. But Andrea, this is a reduction from when it was first brought to us. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that's.
This is a reduction.
Yes.
1,500.
Yeah.
So, but because ultimately what I feel has happened is that there was a mandate that was imposed that was difficult to enforce. It was a nearly impossible thing. You're either putting employees potentially in dangerous positions, being responsible for people during a very divisive time. And I feel that there's certainly certain places that had different kinds of people who were coming to the place, and they can't control that necessarily. But ultimately, the issue I have is that it was not enforced unilaterally in the same way. It was difficult to enforce. Some employees would, some employees wouldn't, some business owners would, who was really there. you know, there was confusion about, you know, can you take it off, you know, when you're eating and drinking, or can you take it off once you're at your table? There's just been so many things difficult along with this that I think that the confusion and everything surrounding it, and then again, putting this on the employees to enforce it, added another layer of problems that I think we found out that it just was not a very good environment. And so I do take sympathy for the inspector, but also for the owners of the situation. And I appreciate the reduction here and recognition of the reduction. But I support Commissioner Floyd in that this is just a very difficult time, putting a lot of people in really bad situations with these rules.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Floyd, one thing I would also like to clarify is that although the inspection started out as one looking into the mask mandate rules, the underlying charge was for permitting disorder. And from my own experience doing ride-alongs with inspectors, they're frequently met outside of the mask mandate context with hostile and unwelcoming actions from patrons. So while I also have sympathy for employees and business owners, and I do understand the difficulty that they have gone through during the pandemic, this also is a situation where there was an unruly patron. Yes, it stemmed from the mask mandate, but it really could have stemmed from anything. That the patron could have just not liked that the inspector was asking the bartender anything. And I have actually witnessed that, where patrons are openly hostile to inspectors. And it is on ultimately the employee and the licensee to take any steps to address that disorder. You know, in this particular case, the bartender was silent. The bartender did not address the patron at all. And I believe that this, you know, conversations that we had earlier, that we would never expect an employee to put themselves in harm's way, but we do expect a baseline attempt to address the disorder that the patron is engaging in. And so I do understand the difficulties of the mask mandate, but you know, I think this charge is only tangentially related to that.
With all due respect, Andy, I do disagree with this was incredibly divisive, and I think that this is all on its own. I mean, during this period, I'm telling you, employees, bartenders, servers, they were on the front line just getting berated, and you know, that was a very precarious position for that employee. You know, question with inspectors, I know on the marijuana side, if they ever feel that they're in a not so safe you know, position, they call the police, correct?
Commissioner Floyd, yes, all of our inspectors had the option of calling for law enforcement assistance.
So he didn't want to do that in this case, so he could finish his job to see if there was, you know, any other, just to finish the inspection. He didn't do that?
Commissioner Floyd, there was nothing in the report indicating that he continued observations. He left after the 8 minutes, he left the premises, continued observations from outside for a few minutes, and then left. And there was no indication of his thoughts about calling law enforcement or attempts to go back in.
I purposely did this. Because I purposely wanted to bring this up because Commissioner Floyd is the restaurant owners representative on this commission. It's set up that way. I listen to what she says. And there's one or two ways to look at this. One is that the licensee did not do the proper job in training the bartender, and therefore the licensee should be responsible, or that the licensee should not be held responsible for the actions of the bartender in this particular situation because of the circumstances of what was going on. And, you know, quite frankly, I listened to her on that. And this is not the first time this conversation came up. This is not the first time you have, you know, voiced your strong opinion on it. And I can't talk for any other commission members, but I listened to what Commissioner Floyd has said.
Sure.
It's an important point to let the staff know as well that there's some feelings on this commission that in this particular situation, they should be cognizant of it. I don't know where we're going on this. We don't talk about it in advance. So if there's no more discussion.
Chair, may I ask one?
Yeah, sure.
Andrea, just to be clear, I wanted to make sure, what was the fine when it was first brought to us? Do you remember?
Yes, Commissioner Curran. So this was a second level Category 3 violation. The originally proposed violation penalty was, one second, please. I can pull up I want to make sure I get this right. Apologies.
It's $49.50.
It was, I just wanted to make sure this was the only violation in this case. Yes, there was a single Category 3 second level violation. So the total proposed penalty was either a 30-day suspension or a $49.50 civil penalty.
And the proposal right today that we would be voting on?
It's reduced to $34.65.
So there was a reduction.
Yeah, there is a reduction.
There is a reduction of 30% off of the proposed penalty.
Which is always the case.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's only one, it's Boomtown. Why don't we call the roll and
Get a motion?
I need a motion, right? Will somebody give me a motion on that?
I think this is the first one of this.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Doherty. I move to ratify the stipulated settlement agreement for Boomtown Saloon as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
No.
Commissioner Japon Porter?
No.
Commissioner Melitas?
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum?
No. Where does that come out?
3-3 split.
So it does not.
So it does not pass.
I don't know what you do with that, Andrea, but.
Can you reduce it more?
No, it reduces, let them.
The only reason, and I'll say the only reason I wanted to go on the record, maybe I should have said this. I voted yes this time, even though I don't necessarily agree with, you know, maybe some of what we're doing here, but I was going to vote yes because it has been reduced. The commission has heard and made that adjustment. There was some issue here and there was an agreement reached. And that was, in the end, the place, what the Boomtown Saloon was willing to take a settlement agreement, and that tells me a lot that they're willing to get on with it. And so, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to leave my comments that, yes, this is some of the things I find in difficulties for future cases. I am happy that we were able to reduce this by 30% for them. And it's not an ideal situation, but can I move again or is that at the end?
Chair Rosenbaum, would it be appropriate if I made one additional comment?
Of course. This is not a
Thank
court, and if it was, I'd let you do it anyway.
Chair, thank you. As you know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and this was a case that was discussed through various levels of staff and leadership at this case, because while we do understand the points that Commissioner Floyd and Commissioner Curran brought up, the other side of the coin that was very much at issue when we were discussing these charges and the possible settlement was the issue of inspector safety. So, like I said, we are very cognizant of the position that employees and licensees are under these past 2 years, but our inspectors felt physically threatened often going in and just doing what they were asked by the commission to do. And there was a lot of discussion about this particular case where this inspector did feel threatened, where there was a patron and he left feeling unsafe for his physical well-being. So while I do understand, and I do understand the concerns from the industry, there is also a concern about these inspectors who we asked to do a job, whether or not that direction was a good one, or whether or not they don't have the opportunity to evaluate that. They are told that these are the rules, please go enforce them. Please check to make sure there is compliance. Please do what you can to educate. And in this case, the intention was to educate. There were mask mandate violations, but that were not charged. The intention was to work with this employee and help her get into compliance. And he was put into a situation where he felt physically threatened. And it is very important for us as a commission to do our job and ensure that licensees stay in compliance, that those inspectors are free to go out and do what they are supposed to do and do what they are tasked to do. So that was what was underlying this charge as well. And so I would just ask the commission to keep that in mind. Keep in mind that balance between what is fair for the industry and the circumstances that we put our own employees in trying to enforce the rules that the state has passed, that the commission has passed.
We do, I can assure you we do. And this is put blinders on, this is one case.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that this commission is setting up any sort of a procedure in the future to look at this on a different way. We understand what's going on with this. This is one case. And with all due respect, I think at the beginning, when I asked you to explain this, it would have been beneficial to talk about the safety issues as strong as you did and as articulate as you just did. And I can assure you that we understand the difference and we will protect the inspectors. The other side of the coin is what Commissioner Floyd is saying, which is totally unrelated, is that, look, this could have been a very bad player, the bartender. But if I didn't know about it, and you're gonna charge me $4,900 for a bad actor when I'm trying to survive with a business, then that's a whole different story again. And I don't know where the right combination is, none of us do. I can assure you that I would not vote no in the future when these things come up, merely because I voted no today. I understand the difference between it. I know every one of these commissioners do too.
And Commissioner Rosenbaum, I do understand that the employee is in a precarious position, but when a person is operating a business and makes a decision to have a single bartender working, that single bartender is the representative of that licensee. And so if that representative cannot be held responsible for complying with the rules, we're in a situation where there is no one on that premises that would be responsible for complying with the rules. There are certain places where the licensee is not on the floor. If there is one single bartender working and there is a rule violation, I don't understand. I don't see any other outcome that ensures compliance that is also fair to the licensee. That one employee is responsible. That is the representative of the licensee at that time. So, these circumstances are that there was that single bartender interacting with the patrons.
Maybe, maybe not.
Do we know?
Maybe, maybe not, but I don't know. But my thing is did this inspector, did he tell this sole employee, permittee, that, hey, unless you get involved, you're gonna be held, the licensee, your boss is gonna be held responsible with a stiff, civil penalty. And
Commissioner Floyd, the inspector actually, they're instructed that they are not, it is the Administrative Hearings Division's job to determine what is a violation and what a penalty will be. They can educate on possible outcomes, but
A possible penalty. This could be a possible, I mean, just some sort of on the, in the moment, education. And again, I agree, and I completely echo Chair's sentiments. This is just the anomaly of this case, given the circumstances in which, what we were dealing with a very divisive time, and what I know permittees, licensees were going through. And I'm not terribly convinced that on this one. And so that's why I'm voting no. But Andy, has nothing to do. I completely agree with you. I know how important it is to make sure that our inspectors are, they need to be safe. They need to feel when they go on premises somewhere that, their safety is priority. I understand that from this commission. This is just a different circumstances for me personally, so.
Do you want to?
I've got a couple, so this is the
I
southern.
thought something, didn't I?
Greg, go ahead first, because you
Well, I
have to
just-
stand up first.
I mean, I'm on the fence. I just wish that law enforcement had been called. If inspector felt threatened.
I think that that's the underlying reason that I'm not speaking out here, because there's things you maybe shouldn't say, but in this situation, there are a lot of issues, a lot of people that misuse power or say things, and I'm looking at the situation and saying, there wasn't a police call, there wasn't any further actions taken. What exactly did go on? And so, I'm left to say here that at this point, so I am disappointed in that, because I do think that because it's this issue, and there are certain people who misuse that power or would use it as a way, in a way that may not be appropriate. And so, that's not to say that I think the inspector was lying, but I think that in these situations, it's really hard for us to know what level we're talking about. Did they just simply say, I don't like your haircut, I think you need to get out of here, and the inspector said he was threatened? Or was it, or what kind of information was that? And I realized it was more than that, the information we have, but that's certainly here, what's kind of muddy is that we don't know, there's a spectrum there as to, when people say they are threatened, what does that mean? And I think, like I said, in this particular situation, is it somebody saying, go put your diaper on your face? I'm trying to think in context of what I've heard, those kind of bad statements, or it's so hard to know and to judge in this situation. And that's where I think, to come from Commissioner Floyd's point of view, is that I understand this is about inspector safety, but the issue here is that maybe there aren't sufficient facts here for us to make that decision based upon this particular issue in these circumstances. Although I'm going to go back and say, if anybody on here would be willing to change their vote, because I think that they are accepting some culpability here, which is why I voted yes. And if you said you may reconsider that,
just because of that.
This is a lot for them, many months to keep coming back to us. And it's a lot for the agency to continue to negotiate over that. I don't know, Chair, if I'm allowed to make another motion.
You can make a motion to reconsider the vote. We can do whatever we want.
As Commissioner Curran, we try to walk that fine line at AHD, because if this were to go to hearing, you are the final arbiters. You are in a role where you evaluate the settlements, but we are trying to walk a fine line between not providing too much information because it'll get back to you in the contested case proceeding. So we're not trying to be vague. I am happy to reiterate some of the facts if you would like me to talk about why the inspector felt threatened and the actions of the patron. I also went back and looked at the report, and I can tell you exactly what the inspector said. So the inspector, after speaking to the permittee and saying that he would rather not show his badge and announce that he was OLCC due to the concern that it would create a hostile environment, the bartender indicated that she understood, and then the inspector again reiterated it is her job to control the premises and enforce the required rules and regulations, and that she was currently unable to control the scenario at hand. So while he did not go into necessarily your boss will be on the hook for X amount or possibly on the hook for a violation, he did reiterate that it is part of her job to control the premises. So there was some education there. Also, just Commissioner Floyd, to address this inspector at that time, this was a second level violation. The reason why it is a proposed 30-day or 4950 violation, because it is their second category 2 violation within 2 years. This inspector might not know that. And so they are instructed not to talk about specific penalties because they are very dependent on prior violations and other circumstances. So this permittee had an initial category 3 violation in 2019. That inspector might not have that knowledge at the time. So there is an education component. The inspectors, especially around this period of time, they were encouraged to provide education, but there is a limit on the amount of information they could provide and the amount of information they have on hand that they can provide. When we're looking at this at AHD, we have the whole case file, we can look at their history. So it is a little different from our seat.
Chair.
Chairman, just one comment. I think I understand the complexities of this thing. It's really hard either way. But also telling that bartender, don't tell anybody because it's only going to exacerbate this, and then they go ahead and reveal that information. Chipped it.
And this
in my opinion, it was.
All I want to say too.
And they have come to an agreement.
This is Jacksonville, Oregon. Like, I don't know if anybody looks at a map or knows about Jacksonville or followed some of our other enforcement actions down there. OLCC isn't beloved down there. There's a lot going on down there, a lot of scary stuff. And I don't know, we kicked this back. It went through Steve, it went through Rich, like a couple of times. So the thing I want more than anything is for the good actors and the agency to get on the same page more and have each other's back, because that's where I see the biggest disconnect. It's not about licensees, good licensees just doing their thing, versus, inspectors that maybe go rogue or whatever. It's people like just trying to enforce it. And down there, you announce that you're OLCC in a bar full of who knows. That is not a safe situation for that person. I'm sorry, and that's it. It is sort of thing by thing, and I don't mean to be contradictory of anybody, but I do look at that, like Jacksonville, Oregon. It's not Beaverton. It's not Lake Oswego. It's a different animal down there. So I don't know. That's why I voted yes. Hesitantly, but I voted yes because I just it just concerns me a little bit. But anyways, that's where I'm at with it.
Well, something else I do want to note, and this is for some of us commissioners too. I think it's important for you to know when you say that they reached an agreement, like there was some negotiation on what the agreement is, the settlement is going to be. That's what the agency, that is what OLCC gives. There's already preset what category, and licensees have to pretty much take this agreement. They have to take it. If they don't take it, it could go from and there was a 30% reduction, but it'll go from 3,500, right, to however much they're gonna pay in attorney fees to contest this. So this is the lesser of, monetarily of two evils.
Right.
They have to take it.
Right.
So there wasn't any sort of, they reached an agreement negotiation, they have to take it.
This, go ahead. Yeah. Andy, you said something that was very profound to me. You looked and you said, hey, I don't want to give you guys too much information because it's going to come back in front of you. Well, I can safely say 99.9% of the cases that we are in front of us, we vote on and follow, 95%, 98%. It's a high 90% level, we follow you. So why not give us the facts? Because I from the first day I was on here, I kept on saying, give us all the facts. I think you should give us the facts, because even if it's 98% of the times that we go with you, what's the damn difference? It saves, you should give us all the information that you think is relevant and not hold anything back from us. I feel pretty strong about that, is that, I want all the information I need to make a decision. That's what we're here for. So I think in the future, I think if you have a good idea of who we are, you have a good idea of the type of cases we're gonna look at. I know you do. So even in those cases, give us a little bit more information that you normally would give us and make us happy.
Rosenbaum, I will probably punt that to the DOJ. It's a matter of procedural rules that we want to make sure we're following, and it could be a discussion. And when we get a director, or maybe that's even a Rich question or a Steve question, but I think that could be a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, how many cases come back to us? None, really. In reality. Go ahead, Commissioner Curran.
I think you have to
What?
You have to withdraw and then, just so you know.
Oh.
Do I have to withdraw the working?
Yeah, we have to make a
to
motion.
reconsider. May I move to reconsider?
I don't have my book in front of me, so I don't know. I mean, I was wanting to cover the bases.
Why don't you make a motion to withdraw the previous vote? We'll do it that way, and that's,
cover.
I make a motion to withdraw the previous vote on the last motion for approval of the Boomtown Saloon as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
No. Oh, I'm off of your proposal.
Yeah, this is just a proposal
Withdraw.
to withdraw.
To
the
withdraw,
last.
yes, sorry.
Commissioner Japan Porter,
Yeah.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
yes. Regardless of the outcome, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Chair, I would like to move to ratify the stipulated settlement agreement for Boomtown Saloon as proposed by staff to see if we may have a different result.
We call Mark. What do you think he say?
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
No.
Commissioner Japan Porter,
I'm elected, yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
No.
Motion passes.
Well, the point's been made. I hope everybody takes it seriously.
I know people look at me and feel threatened.
I appreciate the healthy discussion. Because
Yeah.
I know this was not
Yeah,
easy
this
to
is
get there,
tough.
but it's good to hear all of the points of views. Thank you for patience.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Commissioner Curran, and Chair, and other commissioners.
Let's do more. We'll finish by Tuesday.
You're not out for the hook, Andy.
Oh,
We
yeah,
got two more.
Anybody have any questions on the marijuana violation stipulation? If not, We need a motion,
Chair,
Commissioner?
I move to ratify the 3 stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff. This is for the marijuana violation.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Last but not least is the licensing stipulation settlement agreement on CJ Operator. This is a restricted license, Andy?
Yes, Chair Rosenbaum.
Okay. Any discussion? I intend to vote no to be consistent with my positions on restricted licenses. Chair, will take the vote, please.
Chair. I move to ratify the licensing stipulated settlement agreement for CJ Operator as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
No.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
Will, you got anything to say before we leave?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just briefly, I know it's been a long day. I mentioned it to most of you, but we're opening back up for the governor's request that all state agencies will open up to the public May 2nd. Back to traditional hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We'll have a limited staff, but we'll be here to greet the public. We'll take care of their needs. And frankly, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the staff back in the village, a little bit more activity. So the executive team will be here weekly. So we're all going to be changing our roles and what we've been doing in the past couple of years. So I'm looking forward to it. Other than that, I don't think I have anything.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Good meeting, good discussion. I think you made your point.
Thank you.
I agree with you.